Make your preparation a stepping stone to the higher rungs of the final selection list. Test and equip yourself before the final personality test. With the Vision IAS Personality Development Program for Civil Services Examination 2023. With takeaways such as DF analysis session with senior experts and faculty members, mock interview session with ex-bureaucrats, educationists, interaction with toppers and serving bureaucrats, performance evaluation and feedback. At Vision IAS, we aim to empower you with guidance for the questions ranging from your interests, current affairs, general knowledge, aptitude to critical thinking, which are instrumental in determining your path ahead. Admissions are open now. The UPSC CSE arena is an ever-evolving space where staying up to date becomes as crucial as maintaining a thorough preparation. With strategic planning and holistic coverage for exam syllabus, Vision IAS Delhi presents the GS Foundation Course 2025, 2026, and 2027. Avail analysis and integration of current affairs with the GS syllabus. All India test series with an innovative assessment system, inculcating post-test analysis, discussion, All India ranking, and more. Explore the holistic learning modules, intrinsically designed for the ideal aspirant. Batch starts 20th December, 5 p.m. offline come live online classes. Start strong with a solid foundation. Enroll today in the Vision IAS GS Foundation Course 2025, 2026, and 2027.
Good evening, everyone. Uh, we welcome you to an interactive session on how to approach questions on GS Paper 4 Ethics and Analysis of 2023 GS Paper 4. Our advisor for this session, Shri Krishna Mohan sir, has 36 years of experience in Indian administrative services. He has demonstrated expertise across diverse sectors such as rural development, infrastructure, health, education, agriculture. He also was posted as district magistrate in Chandigarh during 1986. He is also a certified national trainer and facilitator of ethics. Additionally, he is also a recognized national trainer on e-governance, specializing in government process, re-engineering, e-governance procurements, and change management. And we will request all of the students to actively participate today in today's session. Sir, kindly guide our students regarding the subject matter. Please welcome to the dais, sir.
Thank you. I will take this. Okay, so good evening, everyone. So today we will talk about a subject which is the GS4 paper and how to crack that paper, how to solve that paper. What are the things that you have to keep in mind while writing an answer which is impressive? Everyone, the examiner, feels that you not only have knowledge, but you also have the concept is understandable by you. So let's start on that strategy. Then we will come to the actual paper of 2023. So when we talk about ethics, many of you who were present in the last few sessions, you remember that ethics was values in motion. When the values are in action in this world, then it becomes ethics. So ethics is actually one human being's interacting with another human beings through a human conduct. When it is on the basis of the values, then it is said that he is moving on an ethical line. Okay. So some of the typical examples of ethics I told you about was that in the corporate sector you have Ratan Tata, and that started with Tata group of companies. That was Jamshedji Tata and JRD Tata. So JRD Tata, if some of you were who were present in the last time, I told you that the ethics was demonstrated very clearly by the Tata group of companies. So Mr. Tata had in his office a table, and there were two drawers, and the two drawers contained stationery items. One of them contained stationery items which he had purchased from his own account, and the other one was from the company's account. And he never used for his personal purposes any stationery relating to the company's account. So he was so ethical. Some of the ICS officers, now you are going to become the civil servants, and some of this Indian administrative service, this originally it was called as Indian Civil Service. And Indian Civil Service, many officers, if you know what they used to do, 6 months before retirement, they did not carry their salary home. So they were asked, why are you not carrying the salary home last 6 months? So they said that during our 35 years of service, knowingly, unknowingly, wittingly, unwittingly, we might have misused the government infrastructure, misuse the government vehicle, misuse the government telephone, misuse the government stationery, and therefore 6 months salary we are depositing as a sort of compensation for the unethical acts which we might have committed during our 35 years of service. So that was the kind of thinking of those ICS officers, and the country is running on the basis of ethics only. You see, there are many unethical people, but ethical people, they are carrying on their shoulders the system of governance in this country. So you all people would ultimately occupy those highest echelons, and therefore, if you practice values, then I can assure you in the long run, you will always benefit. In the short run, many unethical people do benefit, but they pay a very heavy price at the end of it. So ethics paper has assumed a very great importance because government thought that There is so much of unethical activity which is going on in politicians, in bureaucrats, in many other corporate sector, that there is a need to bring about ethics and values. So they thought that let us sensitize the people on ethics, integrity and aptitude. So let me begin that GS4 paper. Are you able to see from this side? Achha, you have here. GS4 paper can be confusing, because the question in this paper tend to be subjective with no single correct answer. Ethics is always contextual. It depends on the situation and the need of the hour. I gave you that example that telling a lie is unethical, but many situations telling a lie would become ethical. So therefore, that is why the writing the answer to the ethics paper is slightly confusing. There cannot be only the one clear-cut answer. There can be different shades of answers. So there can be multiple ways to answer a particular question, and all of them may appear to be right. Okay, that is why the case studies are there in the part B, where you are given many options and you have to find out which option would be the best. So therefore, though aspirants are clear about the syllabus, they are often confused about how to answer ethics questions. And given this subjectivity and confusion, therefore it becomes challenging to come up with a convincing framework for answer writing to the GS4 paper. And however, some broad principles can definitely guide, which I am going to talk about in the next about 1.5 hours or so. And please feel free to ask me question at any point of time. I do not believe that one should leave the questions to the end. Though some people have different style, they like to that the question be asked in the end, and they make a continuous presentation without break. And there are two reasons why this happens. Sometimes you lose the thread, so therefore you continuously speak about it, and sometimes you forget. So therefore people, some of them, they like that the question should be asked in the end. But I encourage people to ask questions during the presentation, because then and then you will understand, you will be otherwise you will forget about that question at the end of that. So GS4 has got two parts, all of you know about it: theory, case studies. Okay, so theory in this portion, and to some extent in case studies, because case studies and theory, they are also in a way interrelated. Theoretical principles sometimes can be used in the case studies, and some of the case studies can be used as examples in the theory paper also, isn't it? So they are interdependent, and that is why you must make a good study about the theory portion as well as the case studies. The definition of an ethical value, you see. 2, the significance of the value. Okay, so, and 3, the application of that value. So please understand, theory questions, when you have to answer regarding a value, you will divide it into 3 parts. Okay, definition of the value, so it is the definition of an ethical value. 2, the significance of that value, and 3, application of that value. I normally add 2 more things to it, that is names of those people who practice that value. Okay, so the mapping of that value vis-a-vis some people, you see. So for example, if there is a particular value, you can attach it to Mahatma Gandhi, someone to the B.R. Ambedkar, something to Raja Ram Mohan Rai, and so on. So you can map that value to that particular person. So 3 parts: the definition, then the significance, then the application of that value in daily lives, and I also add 2 more things: application of it in civil service. Number 4th and 5th, people who have been practicing that value, that is mapping of that value. Is it clear or not? 3 चीजें तो ये हैं, 2 चीजें मैंने और इसमें ऐड करी हैं कि कौन लोग उस वैल्यू को प्रैक्टिस करते हैं और उस वैल्यू का सिविल सर्वेंट के लिए क्या महत्व है. So these are the 5 things when you have to answer a question regarding a value. Okay. So let us take the term integrity. Okay, integrity is a value, And I gave you the example of integrity last time also, but I will, for those of you who were not present here, integrity is derived from a term in mathematics which is called as integer. Integer, integration. Integer means whole number. So you should be whole, consistent. There should not be any deviation because of any external forces. So even if no one is supervising you, you should remain consistent. Okay. So whether a person, your boss, is present in the office or not present in the office, you should come to the office in time. That is called as integrity. So if there is someone who is watching you through a CCTV cameras, you will not accept the bribe. If there is no CCTV camera, you will accept the bribe. That is again a lack of integrity. So whether someone is supervising you or not, you will preserve that value. Okay. So integrity is keeping your word. Say what you do and do what you say. It is also called as walk the talk. So one of the examples of integrity, it's given here. Let us first of all understand. So we will when we give answer to this about integrity, what do you understand by integrity? Definition of that value. So you define consistency or sticking to the values even when no one is looking at you, keeping your word, what say what you do what you. So that is the definition. Okay. What is the importance of integrity? In its absence, what are the consequences for an individual, society, country, or in different walks of life? That is the significance of the value. That if integrity was not there, what would happen to the society, to the country? So that will be the second part of your answer. Okay. Third is, what are the challenges in cultivating integrity? So how do you overcome them? So this is application of the value, that there are many challenges which will come when you practice integrity. What are the challenges? You have to write them. And also, so how do you apply that value? So you may substitute other ethical values for integrity. But as I said, normally I would add two more parts to it. That is, number one, application of integrity in civil service, because you are appearing for the civil service, and people who have practiced integrity. Now it can be Mahatma Gandhi, it can be APJ Abdul Kalam. So you can write that these are the people who have practiced integrity in their lives. Okay. So that will make your integrity. Now instead of integrity, you can substitute it by accountability. A question may be, what is accountability? So you will again write definition of accountability, significance of accountability, practical application of accountability, use in civil service, people who have been accountable. So when you talk about accountable, you can give an example of Lal Bahadur Shastri. He was an accountable person. He resigned as a railway minister when there was a railway accident. So this is how you will write. Okay. So prepare a definition for each of the terms in the syllabus. So if the question pertains to a specific ethical value, you must introduce the answer with a crisp definition. So I always say that prepare a glossary of terms which are typically present part of the ethics paper. So there will be at least 5 dozen words where you prepare the crisp definition. So the conscience and accountability and transparency and diligence and discipline, objectivity, reasoning, truthfulness, non-violence, so compassion, empathy, sympathy. So there will be at least 5-6 dozen such things. Prepare a crisp definition. And my suggestion to you would be that you write down all the 5 things which you have just now said. Definition, underneath that, example, application, usefulness in civil service, people who have practiced that. So that when you read about that particular value, you also read about the different parts, how you will write the answer. Is it clear, or any doubt on this? Please let me know. So this is that question relating to explaining a value. Okay. So for example, they have said integrity. Integrity means being honest and doing the right thing even when no one is watching you. That's the definition. It can be conveyed through a simple example, stopping at a red signal and not proceeding even if there is no constable or there is no traffic. So that is an example. In ethics paper, the essence is giving an example. Never complete your answer without giving an example. If possible, 2 examples, but minimum 1 example. Same thing we do when we appear for the interview also. Example. And as many example as you want. If you want, I have got is my bank all definitions, almost 100 such in the form of glossary, which I can share with you, and I can also give you the definition, not only definition but practical applicability, and also people who have practiced that. Okay, so that you are able to at least give a very good answer regarding this question. Second is leadership. For example, leadership was also a value. Okay, so leadership can be defined in many ways. Leadership is the act of motivating a group of people towards achieving a common goal. There can be many such definitions, but this is one good definition, that their leadership inspires others, motivates others to move towards a common shared goal. Okay, and there are many attributes to leadership. So you are aware about some of the attributes. The leader must have courage. A leader must be able to take decision, problem solving, have a vision, okay, must have confidence, must be accountable, must be transparent, must lead from the front. Okay, so there are many attributes of leader. So when you write leadership, you write the definition and also write what are the traits or attributes of a leader. Okay, and then you give example. For example, you can give Martin Luther King, you can give Mahatma Gandhi or Swami Vivekanand or APJ Abdul Kalam or Nelson Mandela or Abraham Lincoln. There are so many leaders in this world, or even Mother Teresa. I mean, so therefore, it is given here, for example, that leadership provides inspiration, motivation, and a vision. For example, Gandhiji showed leadership, vision to lead this country to independence. Always prefer a simple definition. Avoid jargon. So Shashi Tharoor language is not to be used here. Simple language. Mahatma Gandhi's experiments with truth, he wrote in a very simple language. Use very simple English language and you will secure very good marks. Okay. So simplicity is clarity. Another useful way of introducing your answer is by starting with an interesting quote also. So example, when you are answering a question on emotional intelligence, it can be started with the following quote, that as much as 80% of your success comes from EQ, only 20% comes from your IQ. So that's an interesting quote that will make your answer impressive. Okay, it's ultimately the examiner must understand that your answer is better than the other answers. Something new should be there, something more creative should be there. So a question on RTI can be introduced with this quote. RTI is the master key to good governance. This was in the second ARC, second Administrative Reforms Commission. Okay. Now value mapping, which I was telling you, that while a value is there, you have to map that value. So when you write the value, you also attribute that value to some specific persons. Okay. So in this exercise, you think of an eminent personality and map them into the values. For example, B.R. Ambedkar, social justice, okay, human rights, rule of law, empathy, compassion. That is, these are the values which can be mapped against B.R. Ambedkar. So you prepare a list of these prominent people and prepare a list of the values which they represent. So that is why I said when you write integrity, you write the name of the person, the mapping. Okay. Similarly, Gandhiji and J.R.D. Tata, ethical capitalism, philanthropy, professionalism, corporate social responsibility. So these are the values which are associated with the different persons. As you map values into the list of the most important leaders, philosophers or administrators, it will become easier to recollect and quote relevant thinkers in respect of the various questions. Okay. Flowcharts. Use of flowcharts and diagrams always helps. So something which is written in a paragraph, that may not convey with that effectiveness your answer as a flowchart or a diagram will. So for some topics such as emotional intelligence, good governance, civil service values, illustrating their features through flowcharts or diagrams, that makes your answer very concise and very impressive, neat. Prepare a flowcharts. So all these things should be done beforehand. That if emotional intelligence comes, then explaining the different parts of emotional intelligence with the help of a flowchart. Or civil service values, let's have a look at that. Civil service values are these. You can write them in a paragraph also, but you can also write in the form of a flowchart or a diagram. That will instantly make that examiner understand that here is a candidate who is able to analyze the thing, understand the thing, and he has explained that thing in a much better, crisp manner. So civil service values, so many of them: integrity, so neutrality and professionalism, competence and leadership and objectivity, empathy, and so on. So try to make such things in advance. So this is what I was telling yesterday, that in order to prepare for the civil services, you need to first devote 2 to 3 months in preparation of the notes. You will not read directly from the books. Books you will use as aids in order to prepare notes on a register. I used to purchase about a dozen register, and every register I would write one particular topic or subject. So for GS1 you can have 1 or 2 register, GS2 you can have, and write down, consult as many books as possible, do the cherry picking. उनमें जो बेस्ट चीजें हैं उसके अंदर से निकाल कर you write them out in your notes with your own handwriting, because if you write with your own handwriting, it has 2 purposes. Number 1, automatically you memorize it, and number 2, it makes your handwriting very beautiful because you keep on writing, you practicing, and number 3, your speed becomes much higher if you write it yourself. I never mugged up the things. Mugging up or cramming, it does not help. I remember, all of you must have seen people walking with a book in their hand and cramming and going up down. It does not help. I have found writing down the thing is the best thing. Yesterday I gave that saying that the weakest ink is still more powerful than the strongest of the memories. So the ink which you use in the pen, weakest ink it may be, but if you write it down again and again, it will still be more powerful than the strongest of the memories. So therefore, boring है, बहुत boring होता है, बार बार लिखना, अरे तो कल ही तो लिखा था, फिर से बार बार लिखना, नहीं, बार बार लिखिए, आपका automatically कंठस्थ हो जाएगा. It will go to your memory. So if you do that, then at the examination center, your hand will start flowing in without even thinking, because every step you will be able to, automatically your hand will start writing. Okay, right. So make a database of real life example. So, yes, sir. Yeah, so for example, if supposing there are many parts to an answer, one way is to write in paragraphs. One way is to show them in the form of a diagram. So whenever you write an answer, see if those things can be expressed in the form of a diagram. Civil service values, or you can, for example, question can be, let's hear emotional intelligence. What are the advantages of emotional intelligence? So you can write in the paragraph, but you can also write the advantages, the same diagram, first advantage, second advantage, third advantage. It will make much more clearer to the examiner. You may not be having the habit of writing, but develop that habit. If the answer is in many parts, A, B, C, D, E, F, you can write it that way also. For example, in an organization, there is a CMD, chairman and managing director. There are a number of directors, so director personnel, director, and so on. One way of writing it down is that in the NTPC, there is a chairman and managing director, there are 5 directors, there are 10 general managers and so on. That is one way. The other is make a organizational chart. Top you write CMD, horizontal line, then there are 5 and you get. So that is one, it's much easier. That is why tables, flow charts, diagrams, they convey the thing in a much better way as compared to the paragraph. I'm not at all trying to say that everything can be reduced into a flow chart. Some of the things cannot be reduced, where there is no such different parts to the answer. But wherever you can do that, you can do that. It's only as it feasible. If it's not feasible, there's no problem about it. Okay? Yeah. Okay. So make a database of real life example. So examples are what make your answer come alive. So they not only make the concept clearer, but also convey how the ethical principles and conflicts manifest in real life. So without them, the answers would be pointless theoretical rambling. So you have to make a database. Now database means, remember that the examiner is not evaluating how much you know about ethics. They want to know how much you can apply the ethics. That is why I always say, don't read those books which only talk about theoretical concepts. You are going to become a civil servant. You have to apply those principles in day-to-day life, dealing with people, dealing with stakeholders, dealing with agriculturists, dealing with farmers. How those principles can be applied to the poor people in the. So it is application of ethics and not so much about the theory. So don't read those books which only talk about theory. That is why I'm very selective about books. Yesterday I mentioned to you that insofar as case studies is concerned, the best book which has come across, I have come across, is by R. Rajgopalan. R. Rajgopalan. He's written 2 books. One which is a thicker book, the other which is thinner book. Thinner book is one which deals with case studies, the part B. It is an outstanding book. If you read that book, you will know point by point, step by step, very well explained. He also has written the theoretical book also, which is very voluminous. I would probably not suggest that. Probably I'll suggest some other book in its place. But as far as case studies concerned, so there are hundreds of people who have written books. Some of them may not be knowledgeable also, but for the sake of writing books, they have written books. So don't fall in for those books, because they may unnecessarily confuse you. Okay. So some of the important sources from where you collect these examples. Number 1, yes.
Create a mathematical equation in the ethics paper.
Okay, so give an example.
So like unity, diversity is equals to integration form of unity.
Yeah, why not? Of course.
In which content, introduction, body or conclusion?
Yeah, that I do not know which context you are talking.
Sir,
You
like
can
this.
use these things, definitely.
Yes,
You can
sir.
use a mathematical. For example, I would write, when I have to something write about India's transformation, so I will write IT is equal to IT plus IT plus IT. So the first IT is information technology, second IT is inspired training, third IT is inner transformation. So there is nothing wrong with that. Whether you write in introduction or body, that depends on the question. One can't really say, because the question will be either 150 words or 250 words. You don't have very long answers. So there is practically hardly any introduction or closing. There is only one part of the answer, isn't it? So you can introduce that. There is no the integration mathematical formula to explain
like,
your point.
population is inversely proportional to economy.
Don't write something which may be contested by the examiner. Okay, so wherever you think something which is well known, that you should write. Whether population is inversely proportional to economy is a challenging thing. Don't write any such thing which may be questioned by the examiner. Okay, write those things. I always say that in the examination, never take risks. You see, you may take a lot of risks after you join civil service. But in this examiner, your point of view is only to obtain marks, best marks. So be on the safe side, okay? So write there is something which, a principle which I often say, and that is called as less is more. Sometime less is more. Don't write over and above. Sometime in your anxiety you will write many answers which may be challenged by that examiner. So only write that much which is necessary. Need to know basis, that is what I am saying. But yes, your point is well taken. Wherever it's a formula or something which is well established, you can always use that. But where you are, there can be different interpretation to that thing, that can be unnecessarily contested. So use your own judgment. You have to think about which thing, because sometime in our anxiety we try to write down things which may appear to be something new. और कोई नहीं लिखेगा, मैं लिख रहा हूँ उसको, पर उसमें लिखते लिखते कई बार अपने हाथ जल जाते हैं बेकार में, क्योंकि वो कहेगा कि यार ये तो आंसर मतलब मैं तो नहीं मानता इसको. So therefore tread carefully on that thing. But yes, use diagrams, use mathematical formulas, equations to show a point. So the first source from where you collect example is the newspapers. So read newspapers. I used to do it this way. I am not saying that you should also do that. I used to keep the newspapers in the morning. जैसे ही आते थे जमीन पर फैला लेता था, जमीन पर बैठ जाता था, और उसके बाद कैंची लेकर जो जो उसमें इंपॉर्टेंट न्यूज़ होती थी उसको मैं काटता था, एक फुल स्केप शीट पेपर की लेता था और गोंद लेता था. यू नो दोज डेज वी डिड नॉट हैव फेविकॉल और दोज थिंग्स, वी हैड सिंपल गम. तो गम से उसको चिपकाता था और उसके बाद उसके ऊपर लिखता था कौन सा सब्जेक्ट है, कौन सा न्यूज़पेपर है, किस डेट का है. एंड देन आई विल प्रिपेयर फाइल्स subject wise. Something can be on emotional intelligence, something can be integrity, something can be on that, and thereby you prepare files. Same thing about GS other papers also, GS1, GS2, GS3. Subject wise, newspapers are the best source of examples. So here in ethics paper, the examples, newspaper, when you read the newspaper, look out for interesting incidents and news which can be there. For example, you know, there was an example which happened, if I remember, a picture with a daughter. A sarpanch had taken a selfie with a daughter, and that was to say that the women empowerment and gender sensitization. So one person took a selfie with his daughter, and then that went on the social media. So there was a news item. So there's such kind of news items you can always write in support of your answer at various points. So for example, when you read about selfie with daughter campaign, you must be able to correlate with social persuasion topic of the syllabus. Or an article about civil servants working in remote areas, you can give an example. For example, one collector, he motivated people to construct a 100-kilometer road in northeast. Okay, hai na? Yes. So that example. So these are the newspapers are full with such examples. So take out these examples. Cyber espionage and so on. Every topic, something news will come. So every day take out, cut out cuttings from the newspapers and physically with your hand paste it on the paper and make it into files. The second is personal life. So your personal example, school days, college days, you can write examples. So littering on the streets, jumping a traffic signal, cheating on a test, lying to your parents, shirking work at office. You can think of many examples from your everyday life. For example, how you were traveling by in a bus and you found that there was a bag which was lying there, and it contained say 50,000 rupees, and you found that there was an address written there. So you deposited, went to that person, deposited. That can be an example of honesty. So in this way, personal examples also you should try to give. Again, coming back, as I said, examples make your answer much louder than words. So ragging, for example, and administration has turned a blind eye. So you can discuss such ethical violations also from your perspective. Third is workplace. Every profession has its peculiar set of ethical dilemmas. For example, think of doctors, lawyers, teachers, engineers, civil servants, and imagine the moral challenges they might come across in their respective professions. For example, an SDM who has to protect government land and remove encroachments, and Some poor families are there, and he has to be, those people have to be removed by the SDM. So this kind of a thing, is it ethical dilemma? So if an ethical dilemma, a question comes, you can say that government servants sometimes have to face ethical dilemmas. So it may be very winter, cold season, and the government directive is to remove those people from the government land. Or someone may ask question, even in interview regarding bulldozer, do you agree with the policy of bulldozer? What could be, now it is again a dilemma. So how will you answer that question? I would answer that question on bulldozer in this way. I would say, well, government land cannot be encroached upon by any trespasser, and if someone has encroached upon government land, the government land has to be vacated, but it has to be vacated by the due process of law. You have to issue notice, and then only after the completion of the notice you can remove. If there is a stay order, you cannot remove. So therefore, bulldozer is fine only if it is followed in due process of law. So if you say that, in interview you will not get any further questions on that. So similarly, if in ethics paper also such examples of ethical dilemmas will be helpful. What I am trying to say, मैं आपसे जो कहना चाह रहा हूँ वो ये है कि जब भी कभी आपने कोई चीज़ एक्सप्लेन करनी है एथिक्स पेपर के अंदर, उसको एग्जाम्पल्स के सहायता से दिखाइए, तो आपका आंसर सुदृढ़ होगा, इम्प्रेसिव हो जाएगा. तो ये जो डेटा बैंक है ना, ये आपको तैयार करना पड़ेगा ओवर ए पीरियड ऑफ टाइम. 1 साल की प्रिपरेशन मांगता है सिविल सर्विस. तो उस 1 साल के अंदर आपने नोट्स बनाने हैं और इस प्रकार से डेटा बैंक इकट्ठा करना है और उस डेटा बैंक को बार बार पढ़ना है और तब जाके उसका इस्तेमाल जो है आपने उस आंसर में करना है. और वो आंसर, जैसे मैंने आपसे कहा कि टिपिकल क्वेश्चंस बना लीजिए, PYQs तो करिए ही करिए, इसके अलावा और भी जो क्वेश्चंस आप बना सकते हैं, उन क्वेश्चंस का क्या मॉडल आंसर होना चाहिए और जो नंबर ऑफ वर्ड्स हैं, इट शुड नॉट एक्सीड, and prepare their answers, write them once, write them twice, 3 times, 12 times, so that you ultimately memorize those answers. You don't have to think. एग्जामिनेशन हॉल में सोचने का समय थोड़ी होता है, वहाँ तो आपकी पेन जो है धारा प्रवाह रूप में चलनी चाहिए, और वो तभी संभव है जबकि आप पहले से अच्छी तरह से उसके आंसर तैयार कर लेंगे. ओके, फ्रॉम द लाइव्स ऑफ लीडर्स, फिलोसोफर्स एंड एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर्स. तो मैं आई वुड प्रिपेयर incidents from Raja Ram Mohan Rai, APJ Abdul Kalam, Swami Vivekanand, Mahatma Gandhi, and Annie Besant and Sarojini Naidu, and so many of them, the philosophers. That is a topic in your ethics, that teachings of the philosophers and great people. So you prepare the quotes. You have a huge number of quotes which are there on Google. You can find out some of the quotes and then teachings of those people. So the stories, anecdotes, actions, quotes from these eminent people, and sometimes even mythology is also Gita, ya Bible, ya Quran. Even the mythology, you can collect many such examples. For example, Lincoln's fight against slavery is an example of moral courage. Kalam's commitment to space and nuclear field is a testament of his professional competence. So the anecdotes, actions, stories, and quotes from the life of this. This is again a part of the data bank. Crowdsourcing. So many online portals also run a daily module for an answer writing practice. Sift through them and you will find some of them are very good answers also. So many portals are there. I'm sure you are already aware about them. So you can find out from that also. Okay. So that was about the theoretical paper. Yes.
That quote.
That quote. It is better if you can mention that. Otherwise, you will write anonymous.
Okay.
But if you can remember, it's better.
Yes.
But even if you don't remember, you can write anonymous. Yeah, sure. But it should have a relevance to that. Yeah, sure.
So in our day-to-day life, we got conflict between the ethical values and between the command, like coming from the superior authority. So how we got deal with that thing between the easy thing and the right thing? Is easy thing is unethical always, or something else?
So, when you get an order from a superior authority which is illegal or unethical, then you say that I will go by my own values. You see, illegal order cannot be implemented. If you implement that illegal order, nobody is going to defend you later on, because judiciary is there, which is playing a watchdog. So therefore, you will say, I will, if an order comes like this, I will weigh it from the different values and legality. And if it is legal, yes, it will be implemented. If it is not illegal, what will you do? Tell me, what will you do?
Sorry?
If it is illegal.
Okay. For my personal experience, I will follow all my values and principles, which is based on my family guidance and all the studies I have done. So I will stick to my ethical values.
Yeah. But supposing an order comes to you in writing which is illegal
Okay.
from your superior, what will you do?
I will try to communicate with the superior and try to convince him or tell him.
Correct. So what you will do is that you will go to your superior and you will say, sir, with all due respect to you, the orders which you have passed are illegal, unlawful or unethical because of the following reasons. And you spell out the reason, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you say, sir, if we implement this order, it is not only likely to be challenged in a court of law, it may be publicized in media, it may enter into an inquiry commission also, which will unnecessarily defame the government as well as the officers who are concerned. So let us not implement this order. But you will not implement that order, you will bring it to his notice first. And now, supposing he says, no, 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 you have to follow that order. So then what will you do? If it is in writing, okay, then the best thing is to write it down, send the file up. If it is verbal, you go and explain to him. If it is in writing, write it down on the file, send the file up. In all probability, he will not overrule you now this time, because you have written on the file that they are illegal orders. He will not. So then he will either keep the file with himself, he will never send that file to you again. But you will not implement an unethical order or illegal order. So the test of the in the ethics paper and also in the interview, the examiner would like to test whether you are ethical, whether you are rational, whether you are secular. So rational means whether you can look at the pros and cons. You must be able to analyze the situation, understand the different options and come out with the best option. So therefore, this is how you will arrive at a decision if that order which has come to you from above which is wrong. So that was that was the theory part. So case studies now. Any other question on theory? Yes.
You please explain a little bit on how to select examples from the newspaper, because every one and the other news seems to related with one or the other values.
Yeah, so so the values which are the most important values, they are well known to you, and there will be how to select them. Well, you will have to read through the news. For example, you find an example where a conductor or a police constable, he found a bag lying in the this, or someone was a small child was lost on the way, or someone who was hit by a car and he was lying on the road, and another philanthropist came and lifted him up, took him to the hospital. So these are the indicative of compassion, empathy or honesty or integrity. So there are the newspapers are full of such news. Keep on writing them, putting those things in your file. Is there any problem in distinguishing which value is depicted by which example? क्या problem है मतलब? Let me understand. I mean, please tell me. There are more of
Examples.
Yes. So
Sir,
you mean to say number of example is too large?
yes, sir.
Okay.
Because every day when I open the newspaper, every one and the other news seems to be related to one or the other values. Then
Okay.
it's like in one day only I have collected so many examples.
So there you have to do some cherry picking, the best example. And another thing is, while writing example, choose a short example, chota example. If it is too long, you will not be in a position to write that. So choose a small example, say 5-6 lines, which can easily be written as a part of your answer, because your answer has to be limited to 150 words. But the best example, naturally, if someone, the one example can be better than the other example in many ways. Now it's difficult to, would anyone like to answer the question which she has raised? Any one of you? That how to differentiate between one example or another example to be used as, in the paper.
Sir, I would like.
हाँ जी जरूर.
I would like. Hello. Okay. In this part, I would suggest that look for the syllabus and the important topics. For example, in your ethics paper, there is a connotation for international relation as well, right? So when you are having two wars going on right now, for example, between Hamas and Israel, and the other war going between Ukraine and Russia. So there are two examples of wars, but both have ideological difference. So when international relation examples will come, according to what is the demand of the question, place the example where it will fit. Now here will be the cross question, that what are the ideological differences? Like for example, two conventional states are having war in case of Russia and Ukraine, and a non-state actor and a conventional state in Hamas and Israel cases. So now you can differentiate where to put the example. This is one example which we are sharing with you. Likewise, there can be different set, and you have to segregate, and that will come when you will have a command over the syllabus topics and then relate with the newspaper. Okay, this is just one example. I hope that we tried to, made some difference while picking up the examples. Thank you, sir.
Okay, yeah. So now it's your judgment, but I would probably, if an example is to be given, I would like to pick up an example from my own life, or I would like to pick up an example from some of the old epics, Mahabharata or Ramayana, or the life of some prominent person. Newspaper example, probably I would leave in the last priority, okay? The first priority would be your own example, then from the epics, and then from the lives of the great leaders. Last, I would like to keep as newspaper. So newspaper examples, you should choose the best example you could think of and use some kind of cherry picking for that. Is it clear? Yeah, that priority you keep. Because you will be able to write that, if it is your own example, write it much better, okay? Similarly, Krishna, Arjun ko jo, he talked about that impartiality, and he said that the Upadesh of Gita he gave. And so that is how I will. Integrity, for example, accountability, integrity. I would give example accountability of Satish Dhawan, when APJ Abdul Kalam was working under him, and we discussed earlier also. Similarly, I will give an example of integrity of Gandhiji, or the teacher who was teaching Dronacharya. So I will give example of integrity. So this is how I would prioritize my own example, then example from religious books, then example from the lives of the people, and then newspaper. Case studies. More than the theory part, case studies bring out our ethical dilemmas and logical reasoning sharply. So in ethics, why ethical dilemmas come in our day-to-day life? Because ethics is contextual. It is depends on the situation and the need of the hour. It is not in black and white. It is not coded. That is why there are ethical dilemmas, because different situations come up with different possibilities. So purpose of case studies is to make you ready for the field experience. Whether or not you should use force against another assembly or not, whether you should remove encroachments or not. So there are always factors which are there in ethical dilemmas. For example, just to give an ethical dilemma to you, we will talk about the case studies. One ethical dilemma, which is a very famous ethical dilemma. Some of you might have read a story, a real story. If you go to the YouTube, you will be able to find. It's called Sophie's Choice. Sophie's Choice. You have read it? So Sophie's Choice talks about Nazis. Hitler was gunning after the Jews in World War, and the Nazis were catching the Jews every day. They were being sent to the concentration camps, from where they were sent to the gas chamber. So one day, Nazis forces, they caught one lady. The name of the lady was Sophie, and she had a small daughter and a slightly elder son. The three of them were caught by Hitler's forces, and they were taken to the concentration camp. And the jailer who was there, so Sophie went to the jailer and she said, I am not a Jew, I am from Poland, and Hitler is not after Polish people, so please set us free. The jailer realized the mistake, but he was a government servant. He said, I understand your position. You are from Poland, you are not Jew, but I am a government servant. So therefore, I will give you two choices. First choice, you are free to go. Your children will go to the gas chamber. That's the first choice. First option. Second option, you can take either the daughter or the son along with you. The other one will go to the gas chamber. That was an ethical dilemma before Sophie. She loved her children, both of them, dearly. Leaving either of them or both of them was out of question. She thought about it, analyzed the situation, and then, with a very heavy heart, she said, I will take the son along. I will leave the daughter to go to the gas chamber. And the reason why she thought about it, because she thought World War II was huge disorder, and she felt that a lady being a lady, a girl being a female, she may not be able to survive the vagaries of the World War, where a male member being tough and rough may be able to survive, but the girl may not be able to survive. So with a heavy heart, the daughter was sent to the gas chamber, and she walked away with her son. Only a few years passed, and then, because the war continued for a long time, the boy was also lost somewhere. They were again separated, never to meet again in life. And then, in that moment of depression, when she thought that she was responsible for killing her daughter, one day she took out a loaded revolver from underneath the pillow, put that revolver in her mouth, and shot herself. That is the story of Sophie. It's a question of ethical dilemma. So such ethical dilemmas come in our day-to-day life. Take another example, Rafale deal. Now, there can be a question regarding secrecy, national security. There can be transparency. Both these important things are there, whether to go in for transparency, whether to go in for the security of the nation. So such kind of dilemmas will come. Take an example of a boat. The boat, the ship is carrying 200 passengers, and it develops a hole, and water starts filling up into the ship. All the passengers are lowered into the boats, lifeboats. You are in charge of one of the lifeboats, and you are having 10 passengers in that lifeboat. The boat cannot carry more than 10 passengers. And while taking those 10 passengers out in the lifeboat, you suddenly find a very old couple waving their hands to you. Please stop. Please take us also along. Otherwise, we will drown. Now, if you take that couple also in that lifeboat, the boat will drown, because the boat cannot carry more than 10 passengers. But if you leave them, those two will definitely die. So it's an ethical dilemma. So such kind of ethical dilemma will come in your life when you become civil servant, whether to go this path or to that path. It will be full of options, and one of the options would be the most probable option. So that examiner wants to know whether you are in a position to analyze the problem, the case study, and try to find out which are the option, what are the merits and demerits of each option, then which option would you recommend, and then ultimately you have to explain why you recommend that particular option. Okay. So once you enter the civil service, you may face situation in which competing values clash. For example, honesty, efficiency. Okay. Honesty is a value, efficiency is value. Sometimes the two clash. A person may be honest but inefficient. Transparency versus secrecy. Loyalty versus the rule of law. For example, you are the SDM, okay, and your collector's son has met with an accident, a person has been killed, okay, and you are sitting in that vehicle and you are witness to that incident. Now the question is whether you will protect that boy because he's the son of your boss, or whether you will uphold the rule of law. That is again a kind of ethical dilemma. Or sometimes you are a lady officer and you go to attend the dinner organized by your collector and the collector wife comes and says कि मेरा husband मुझे बहुत पीटता है, domestic violence, and she confides in you, and now you are faced with a dilemma. It's your boss, she's making a charge against your boss, and at the same time it's your duty to defend that other lady who has been subjected to domestic violence. What will you do? So such kind of dilemmas will come, and the examiner likes to test whether in such a situation what will you do. Okay. So there are real life situations a civil servant confronts on a daily basis. So through these case studies, examiner can understand how you behave in a particular situation. So this is whole exercise is quite enjoyable, and I will tell you how to whenever those options are there, always again make a diagram. I will tell you the options. For example, there are 3 options. So you will make a tabular diagram. Okay, so supposing so you will make a table. So there is a serial number and then option, then merits, then demerits. This is how, and if there is a need you can have a remarks column. So whenever there is an ethical dilemma and there are more than option, it is always good to prepare a diagram, okay, so that the examiner can see that the person has been able to find out which are the options, what are their merits, what are their demerits, and always write that option in the last which you are going to recommend. Understand कीजिए, 4 options हैं, तो वो ऑप्शन लास्ट में लिखिए जो आप रेकमेंड करने जा रहे हैं, और जो सबसे इम्प्रैक्टिकल ऑप्शन है you should write number 1. So that is how you will write. I will give you an example. So let's proceed further. Okay. So so how will you write it? Having a concrete framework ready while answering gives a sense of flow and coherence. So therefore you must have the following subheading: subject matter. Briefly in a line or 2 capture the entire case study. It is a précis. सबसे पहले summary of the case in 2-3 lines. Case study will be in 10, 15, 20 lines. Prepare a small summary. Summary हम लोग बचपन में नहीं करते थे, précis writing, 1/3. So write in 3-4 lines maximum. Capture the entire case study. So for example, in a case study dealing with an IAS aspirant heading for an interview but sees an accident on the way, subject matter could be dilemma between achieving a career ambition and responding to the accident as a good Samaritan. So you will write in that small summary. That is the first. Second is the stakeholder. Which are the stakeholders? And in stakeholder, one of the person is called as protagonist. So the person who is in a dilemma is the protagonist. It can be an IAS officer, it can be a municipal engineer, it can be executive engineer. So therefore, who is in a dilemma? Who has to take action? He will be protagonist, but you have to write down all the people who would be directly and indirectly affected. For instance, you are the CEO of a PSU and which is facing severe unionism and strike. So stakeholder are yourself, you will be a stakeholder, employees, government, public at large. Why public? Because if there is a strike, public services would be affected. So therefore, you have to write number 2 as the stakeholder. Number 1 is the summary, number 2 is the stakeholder. Okay? You have to do some brainstorming ki aur kaun effect ho sakta hai because of this thing, okay, because of this case study. So investors and families and shareholders, so all these people will be, and you can show this through a spoke and wheel diagram. Now spoke and wheel diagram, how do you remove it? This is that spoke and wheel diagram. Again, same thing which I was telling you. Try to bring down your answer in the form of diagram. So there are different parts of the stakeholder, कई stakeholder हैं. So सारे stakeholder को बजाय एक एक करके लिखने को आप इस तरह से stakeholder को spoke and wheel diagram में दिखा दीजिए. So I as the CEO, employees, the local people, public at large, government, investor and so on. Okay? A stakeholder is the person who may be either favorably or unfavorably affected. मेरे एक्शन से जो भी अफेक्ट हो, जैसे कि यूनियन वाले जो है स्ट्राइक पर चले गए, अब बसेस बंद हो गई. So who will be the people who will be affected? The public will be affected. The employees will be affected. Their families will be affected. They may not get their salaries. Okay. General public, because they have gone into a strike, so roads will be blocked. So general public would be affected. Government will be affected because the revenue will be lost. The buses, if they were running, the government was getting revenue. So all these people, and since it is a public sector, the bus transport service, it may be a public sector, so the shareholders will also be affected. So just have a look at it again. Okay, since you have raised the stakeholder, list down the set of people who would be directly or indirectly affected in the case, whether favorably or unfavorably. Okay, so any person जिसके ऊपर इसका असर पड़ने वाला है, so that is the stakeholder. Okay, not clear? So everyone, in every question there will be a stakeholder. Okay, let me give an example. The मंत्री जी कहते हैं एग्जीक्यूटिव इंजीनियर से कि भाई इलेक्शन पास आ गए हैं, तो ये जो फ्लाईओवर बन रहा है ना, इसको तुरंत मुझे चालू करना है. आई हैव टू मेक इट ओपन. नाउ द एग्जीक्यूटिव इंजीनियर feels कि the flyover is still not ready. If I open it, it may fall. So who are the stakeholders in this? The minister, the officer, the public, they are the stakeholder. The government, if supposing it falls, then people's life will be affected. The government will be brought to defame. The minister is definitely a stakeholder because he wants that it should be opened up as quickly. Executive engineer, he will be affected. He may be placed under suspension, disciplinary proceedings. So anyone who will be affected as a result of that, every case study will have some stakeholder or the other, because some action is being taken and someone will be affected favorably, someone will be affected unfavorably. Okay. Then the ethical dilemmas, ethical issues involved there. What are the ethical issues? Ethical issues or ethical dilemma. Ethical issues may be honesty, it can be integrity, it can be transparency, it can be accountability, or dilemmas. For example, secrecy versus transparency, efficiency versus honesty, and so on. So there can be ethical dilemmas, loyalty versus something. Okay, so ethical dilemmas, whether to reveal something or whether to have loyalty. For example, a pesticide which is being manufactured. Now that pesticide will be hazardous for the farmers. Now you know about it, you are part of the manufacturing team. Now you know that this pesticide is going to adversely affect the health of the farmers. So you are in a dilemma now, whether you should allow to manufacture that thing. Number one, whether you should not disclose it to the people that look, this, don't purchase this pesticide, it is going to be adversarial. Okay, so you are in an ethical dilemma. On one hand, what is the dilemma? Your loyalty to the company, and the other is public health. So many times this kind of things. For example, mines में क्या होता है? Mines में जो mine का जो proprietor है, who is the holder of mine, he wants maximum output out of that mine. He will keep on excavating coal, and on the other side of the coal there is water. And you know, many films you might have seen, when you go beyond, greed takes over. So then sometimes the flooding of mines happens, people die. Okay, so these kind of things happen, dilemmas come in our life. Okay, so enumerate the ethical issues in the case study. This is a very crucial part of your answers. Explicitly mention the conflicting values you face in your judgment. For instance, involving mining in a tribal inhabited forest, ethical issues will be development versus nature. So development versus environment, that can be an ethical dilemma. Ethical issues will be this: public interest versus protection of tribal land rights, economic growth versus equitable prosperity. So this is the ethical dilemma. So क्या हुआ? Number one, short summary. Number two, yeah. Number three, dilemmas. Number four, options available. So now we have come to the most important part, that is option, which I had shown you that that it should be explained by a table. Okay.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, I have a question.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Yes.
Sir, there are some case studies where it is clearly written in the question that write the stakeholders, but there are many case studies where the questions are different and they don't ask for the stakeholders. So can we go for writing in that question also where there is no mention for the stakeholders?
Yes. So again, a relevant question. Many times the stakeholders are mentioned, but at the end of it they write, are there any other stakeholders? So you will write any other stakeholder. If supposing they have not mentioned any stakeholder, even then you will write the stakeholder, because the analysis of the case study will not be complete till you follow this procedure. That is, from summary to the ethical issues involved, to the stakeholders, to the options, which option will you. So please do write all these things, even if they are not called for in the case study. If you do it systematically, the examiner is going to feel, yes, he knows how to solve a case study, because it is again the rationality which he likes to see, whether you can weigh the different option, whether your mind can go all the ways as to which are the options. So therefore, do write all these things, even if they are not asked for. So options available. So write 3-4 options you have in the scenario, along with the pros and cons, merits and demerits. Choosing each alternative, 2 choices inevitably would be extreme option, which are generally avoided as per each choice. Remaining ones should be the practical courses of action. So some option may be totally unethical, but you will write that option also. Even if it is an unethical option, you will write that option, but you will write in the demerit that this is not merited. For example, let me give you an example. There is a medical college, and medical college, you have been asked to find out, because there are many deficiencies in that medical college. They do not have necessary infrastructure. There are a number of students who are studying there, but they don't have sufficient number of professors or lecturers, and they have got their approval, but you will get a complaint. So you go there and to carry out an inquiry, and you are offered a bribe by the promoters of that college, that hush up, we'll pay you 2 crores of rupees. Okay. Now, amongst the option, you will definitely write number 1 option, accept the money, because that is an option. But you will write merits and demerits. The merits is that you will ultimately, the case will get closed, but and the future of the students will not be affected. Because if you cancel their affiliation, the future of those children will be affected. So you will write that as a merit. Demerit, it is totally unethical to accept bribe. If it is in inefficiency, it is not running as per the norms, there is a, you must cancel that thing. So you will write that as the first option. And the last option, another option would be that you cancel. Okay, that is another option. You cancel it. The merit would be the future of the children will be affected. The demerit. Okay, and the merit is that rule of law will prevail. You have done the right thing. But there can be another option, which can be a more practical option. And what that practical, and you will like to recommend that option. You will say, future admission of the children will not take place, but the present set of children, they will be allowed to pass. So you will stop influx, intake of future students. So that is the more practical option. So this is how there will be some options which may not be practical, but you will definitely write those options also as a part of your answer, even if they are unethical options. Okay, right. So choosing an option. So under this subheading, write about the course of action, which can be a combination also. Sometimes more than one option can also be there. For example, there is a public sector and there is a training institute. So you join, you take over as the director of the training institute. And it's a beautiful campus, and you have been told that the local community organizes every year a function, and the land is given to them free of cost for that day. They organize the function. At the end of the day, they go away, they even clean the area so that there is no problem, and it is organized on a Sunday. So no training is adversely affected. So at the same time, you are told that this land is given free of cost. No charges are taken from the community, because you want to maintain good relations with the local people. So when you take over, the first time that function takes place, so you give full cooperation to those people. You stand there throughout the day. At the end of the day, those people, community people, they come and thank you and hand over an envelope containing 5,000 rupees in cash. When you say, but this is free of cost, no charges are leviable, they say, sir, we have been giving this same envelope to your predecessors also. जो आपके पहले रहते थे उन सबको हम 5,000 रुपए हर देते थे. Now you are in a dilemma. What to do? Which are the options? Number one, you accept the money and do nothing else. After all, you were standing throughout the day, you were helping them out. क्या फर्क पड़ता है, 5,000 रुपए ले लेते. That is an option. You will write that option, but you will write the merits and the demerits. Demerits is, it is unethical totally. As a government servant, you cannot accept this money. And what are the merits? The merit is, after all, you have been contributing to the helping those people, so merit is there. Second option, refuse to take that money. So the merit is that you will go by the principles of integrity, honesty. And the demerit, well, the demerit I will tell you in a little while. The third option is that you report that matter to the senior officers about your predecessor, कि इस तरह से मेरा predecessor जो है पैसे ले रहा था. There will be merits and demerits. Fourth is you formulate a policy कि कभी भी future में the amount will be taken from them against receipt. Now all these options are viable options. First option obviously unethical. Second option also cannot be used in isolation, because if you refuse to take money, which is the second option, what is the guarantee that the person who will come after you will not take money? So you have to institutionalize the system in such a way that in future it will not happen. So second and fourth, they will be taken together as the viable option, correct option. Now you will ask this question, why not 3, reporting the matter to the higher authorities? No, there is no proof. They have just told you against the predecessor. How can you write about your predecessor without any element of proof? So the viable option will be option 2 and option 4 taken together. So that is what I was trying to say. There may be a situation in which there can be more than one option also. So this is how you will say option 2, option 3, they both taken together are the viable option. Let's say in your districts, tribals are agitating against a mining company planning to raise the forest and explore the mineral wealth. In such a case, a decision to put a complete ban on a moratorium on mining is impractical and suboptimal. By prohibiting any form of mining, you will not help the cause of tribals who would have benefited from the new employment opportunities. So choose an option in which you can balance the competing factors. On one hand, it is the mining, which is development. On the other hand, it is the environment. Okay. So there will have to be balance of interests. Articulation is the beating heart of a case study answer. This follows choosing an option, which we discussed above. So you reason out why you chose a particular option and elaborate on the further course of action. So more than the option you choose, it is the reasoning that led you to choose that option. You have to write, and as I told you, the last option should be that option which you recommend. But you have to explain the reason why you are recommending that particular option. For example, you may say, this is to ensure honesty, integrity, accountability or transparency. All these things you will have to write. Okay. For example, if a flyover, you will not allow the minister, you will not buckle down under the minister who says ki isko inaugurate karwa dete hain, because public safety is involved. So you will write down, we will not buckle down under the minister because public safety issues are involved therein. So that is how you will write. And so let me take one more example. Consider a case study dealing with gender issues in the district. Don't write something vague saying that you will ensure women empowerment in the area. You have to write a few more words and lines for that. Just by saying कि अब मैं collector के रूप में women empowerment करूँगा, no. How will you write that? Let's see. Describe concrete steps. I will try to set up a livelihood opportunity based on their skill. So help them produce marketable goods, procure that material in all government departments, and then encourage local private sector to buy these goods. Quote example of Lijjat Papad, Seva, Prajwala and so on. So you will not only write, I will ensure women empowerment. You will say, okay, I will call a meeting of the prominent groups dealing with women or genders. Okay, I will seek suggestions from them. I will then make a market for them. So I will encourage them, give them share capital, give them loans from the banks, and then they can set up their units, they can then come out with their produce. I will ensure that the government departments buy that particular thing, and then the money flows back to them. And then in this answer you will also mention like Lijjat Papad or Seva, So this is how you will articulate. You have to write a bigger answer rather than just writing a part of the answer, because you have to explain that you understand the details of it. It is not simply women empowerment. You have to write something more than that. Okay. So in a case relating to negligent monitoring of government schemes or projects, instead of saying, अच्छा एक और बात बताऊं मैं आपको कि case studies can be of two types. One where there will be distinct options available, but it can also be like this कि if you are the collector of a district, what steps will you take to do it? There are no options available. It only says, wants to know how will you proceed. So that kind of case study will also come. One where there are conflicting options, where you will have to do in the manner I have told you, option 1, 2, 3, 4, then recommend one option. But there will be other case studies, like for example, how will you encourage women empowerment? How will you, for example, malaria has spread in your district. What steps will you take to contain that malaria, or a pandemic, or a flood, or a drought, or a law and order situation, or an accident? So they will like to know what steps you will take. So here there are no options available. All they are interested is in knowing whether you can do brainstorming and come up with the different steps which are necessary. Then you should write that these are the steps I will take, like I gave you in the example of women empowerment. So where there is a case of monitoring of government scheme, for example, Manrega. So Manrega ki monitoring karni hai, so the question is like this. So instead of saying कि I will collaborate with NGOs to ensure third party accountability, don't stop there. You will have to say more than that. And what is more than that? You will say, I will speak to the reputed local NGOs, okay, hold a meeting with them to take their views. I will give them specific inputs as to when they can go and inspect those developmental schemes. I will ask them on specific days to go to different parts of the district. And then I will ask them that you inspect the works discreetly and report either in person or through WhatsApp. Okay? And you can substantiate with a real example how such social cops played a terrific role in effective implementation of Ujjwala Yojana. So this is how you will write down, step by step, which can show that you can think. And they are very common sense. There's nothing great about it. All you have to do, and case studies are best understood by putting yourself in the shoes of the protagonist. मैं अगर वहाँ होता तो मैं कैसे करता? If you put yourself in the shoes of the protagonist, if there is a ethical dilemma or if there is an action to be taken, put yourself कि मैं अगर होता तो देखो मैं सबसे पहले ये बुलाता, इसकी मीटिंग करता, उनको ये बताता, ये steps लेता. That will be the best way to analyze a particular case study. Okay? Any questions? Please ask me. हाँ. Sure. So the remarks can be, for example, okay, it will be best to explain if I show you a particular case study. That will be the best. I'll show you that case study where you can write something in remarks also. Okay, I'll show you that. Consider a hypothetical case where you are posted as DM of a resource poor district that has a history of vector-borne diseases during monsoon season, malaria and those things. So you have to prepare for the challenge with limited funds at your disposal. You can narrate the following concrete steps. Based on the previous year data, I will rank specific blocks in terms of their vulnerability. District में blocks होते हैं. So I will rate किस block में सबसे ज़्यादा diseases हैं on the basis of हिस्टोरिकल्स, पिछले सालों में किस किस ब्लॉक में सबसे ज़्यादा वेक्टर बोर्न डिजीजेज आई थी. सो आई विल previous year data, I will rank specific blocks in terms of vulnerability and prioritize these hotspots for immediate attention. Fogging will be done. So fogging will be done. Anti-mosquito nets shall be distributed to these blocks. Intense training will be carried out to the ASHA workers to help them detect of malaria, dengue promptly. I will use the district mineral fund if available or local CSR funds to procure rapid diagnostic kits. I will designate every Friday as dry day where household in the district will be encouraged to drain out stagnant water from their coolers and from their drains and those things, you see, and conduct a weekly review meeting with the health workers. So this is how you will write a detailed answer. सिंपल आंसर से वो लगेगा कि इसने फिर माइंड नहीं अप्लाई किया है. यू हैव टू अप्लाई द माइंड. यू शुड नॉट ओनली हैव द नॉलेज बट ऑल्सो शो देम दैट यू हैव द नॉलेज. सो दैट इज इंपॉर्टेंट in your ethics paper. And ethics paper and essay paper both are very scoring papers. If you do a slight amount of study, you can really score very good marks in ethics and essay papers. For a case of eradicating child marriages, so a case study आई कि भाई आप you are posted as the collector of a district. How will you eradicate the child marriages in your district? So you will, instead of saying I will ensure awareness on the subject and adherence to law, which is a very simple way to say, but you will not say that. You will say I will take part in bi-weekly Gram Sabha sessions, make the community take a pledge against child marriages. I shall encourage rallies by school children and officers of all government departments to monitor the on the ground situation. I shall depute special officers for supervising them. I will depute officers during specific seasons, particularly it happens in Rajasthan very often. So therefore, they will inspect and report back to me, monitor complaints and grievances, ensure a resolution. So it helps to mention government schemes like Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana or slogans such as Meri Beti, Mera Garv. So this is how you will be able to make the answer much more impressive. Okay. So supposing you want to change the work culture, a case study can be how will you change the work culture in your office. So at the start of every month, I will conduct a one-to-one meeting with each of my officers, take them into confidence, set mutually agreed goals at the end of the month, and so on. So this is how, and you will add letter of appreciation I will give under my signature in order to motivate people, in order to appreciate people. So this is how you will write the answer to this particular case. And where it does not happen, I will initiate disciplinary action against the people. Okay. Right. So at the end of your answer, you can put a quote also of any thinkers. You know, in email also, कई बार हम लोग अंत में quote नहीं लिखते हैं, tag line लिखते हैं, save water or save soil, green, go green, and so on. So at the end of that, you can write some kind of a tagline also. For example, the ethical issue is about integrity. So you will say E. Sridharan and his leadership in executing a complex rail project. That can be quoted as an example at the end of it. Or Mathai, one of the environmentalists, Nobel laureate, she said about development should only be carried out keeping in view the environment sustainability. So that kind of a quote always helps. Okay. So there is one more which I will say, and then we will. So this is Wangari Maathai, which I was telling you. So we need to promote development that does not destroy our environment. Such kind of quotes. So prepare a bank of the quotes also of prominent leaders, and they are all available on Google. Huge number of them is available. Choose some of them and prepare. All you have to do is, nowadays there is so much of data. All you have to do is to devote some time to cull out that data and make them into files and registers, and then leave that data and study only from those notes. That is the only way of studying. It's not possible to consult all other sources. So observe time limit. So 125 marks are for case study and 125 marks are for theory paper. So you should not spend too much of time on either of them. You have to ensure that both of them get equal time allocated to them. Okay. You can start either with case study or with theory, whichever way you can start, but keep in mind that both are equally important and 125 marks each. So for case studies, you should spend the maximum of 90 minutes, that is 15 minutes per case studies. That is what is the thumb rule which I would like to mention in this case. Okay. And then sometimes the changes can be there, but generally, as I told you, that 40 marks, try to attempt questions of 40 marks in the initial 30 minutes. And whether you start with part A or part B, and aim to finish questions worth 40 marks in the first half an hour, and then repeat this process. So therefore, this is how you will do that, so that you are in a position to complete the entire thing. Keep on looking at your watch so that you are in a position to not to leave any particular part of this. So that is how the thumb rule is there, how you will attempt 40 marks in 30 minutes. So this translates into, so imagine your target must be to write 80 marks worth of answer in the first hour, another 80 in the second hour, and 90 in the third hour. This translates to 40 marks in the initial 30 minutes. So whether you start with part A or part B, aim to finish questions worth 40 marks in the first half hour, and then repeat this process. Gain adequate practice, articulation, practical examples. It can only be done with practice. And this book which I was recommending to all of you, R. Raj Gopalan, it has got a large number of examples. And this also will answer your part of the question, how to prepare that tabular form and what do you write in the remarks column. I will try to show it here also. I have made a small PPT out of that also. So sample, for example, Swachh Bharat, 10 marks. Social influence is the process through which a person's attitudes, opinions, or behavior are changed through social communication. Persuasion is a method of social influence. So this is how you will write. Social influence is the process through which a person's attitude, opinions, or behavior are changed through social communication. And persuasion is a method of social influence. So this is how, again, a small diagram. Social influence and persuasion. Same thing which you have written in the form of a paragraph, you can depict it that with persuasion you can influence the social people. So social influence comes about when there is a persuasion. Okay. So social influence and persuasion contribute to Swachh Bharat Abhiyan through behavioral change by changing attitude towards open defecation in the society through campaigns and media. For example, Darwaza Band campaign and rallies by school children to build awareness. That was in the news. Darwaza Band campaign was launched by children. So you can mention that example. And social pressure and peer pressure. That also helps. So by naming and shaming people who don't have toilets, they will be forced to build one. So naming and shaming. Write down the names of those people in the Gram Sabha, those who have not constructed their toilets, and that is how you will be able to name and shame. Children persuading their parents. So the children who are studying in the schools, they will go back and they will influence their parents to have toilets. Gram Sabhas reading out the names of household without toilets. Positive peer pressure in the form of prizes or rewards for building and using toilets can also help people change. Okay. Role model. So role model like Amitabh Bachchan or Madhuri Dixit, or any other person, when he or she, acts like a role model. It can be Sachin Tendulkar, it can be Amitabh Bachchan. So sometimes BSNL, for example, they had a brand ambassador Who was the brand ambassador of BSNL? Yeah. Who was the brand ambassador of BSNL? No. That daughter of a badminton player? Who was she? One of the great celebrities? Deepika Padukone. So Deepika Padukone was the brand ambassador. For Haryana's Beti Bachao Beti Padhao, Madhuri Dixit was the brand ambassador. So many times the social programs, so you can also write that role model when celebrities like Amitabh Bachchan, talk about it, it brings about a change. And community ownership through Grams Swachh Doots, the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan can be made community driven. Such persuasive methods were very successful in Bangladesh. Or healthy competition among stakeholders through initiatives like Swachh Sarvekshan or social influence and persuasive techniques by effectively targeting the social psyche and behavior. So this is how you will write the answer. So you will divide into subheadings, headings, every heading you will write something, and that is how you will write down the answer to that case study.
Sir, good evening. Sir, you just talked about celebrities. Sir, to make our answer diverse, can we put some movies examples or titles in our answers?
Which examples?
Movie titles, sir. Just like some movies are coming on some social issues.
Yes, why not? Why not? Definitely. For example, women's empowerment. Thappad had come.
Yes, sir.
You can mention that, definitely. Why not? Or Do Biga Zameen, about land reforms.
Yes, sir. I have seen that. Yes.
Yeah. So there are many movies. You can mention those movies which have their motto of on socially improving the society. Definitely. Why
Thanks,
not?
sir.
So you are aspiring to become an IAS officer. You have cleared various stages. Now you have been selected for the personal interview. On the day of the interview, on way to the venue, you saw an accident where mother and child, who happened to be your relatives, were badly injured. They needed immediate help. What would you do in such a situation? Justify your answers. 25 marks. Okay. So subject matter. Dilemma between achieving career ambition versus responding to the accident as a good Samaritan. You can write one or two more lines also as the summary of the case. And but you have to keep in mind that the total number of words should not exceed. Stakeholder involved: the mother, the child, me, my family, society at large, and the UPSC. They are the stakeholders. Ethical dilemmas: personal ambition versus moral responsibility to help others, being punctual to the interview versus saving life, personal and family dream to be civil servant versus moral obligation to relatives. They are your relatives. So this is how you will write. This is the tabular form. Now, options: ignore the accident and head to the interview. Merit is punctuality will be maintained, personal ambition will be fulfilled. You will reach on time, you will appear at the interview. Demerit is morally abdicating my duty to save, like selfish and against my conscience. Poor example of an aspiring civil servant. Now the question which you asked, in the remarks column, you can write what this option is going to have an effect on different stakeholders. So this option, ignore the accident, head to the interview. There are 6 or 7 stakeholders. You can write in another column, this will be favorable to this stakeholder and unfavorable to this stakeholder. So that is a remarks. Okay. So some stakeholder will be favorably affected, some will be adversely affected, isn't it? So stakeholder, for example, your family will be favorably affected. You are ignoring the distance, you are going, your family dream is that you should become an IAS officer. So you will be, your family will be favorably affected. So you can write in that column, that option, is it going to affect favorably or unfavorably? On which option, which stakeholder? Second, skip the interview and help the victims. Chhod diya interview, help the victims. The merit is moral obligation towards my relatives will be met a good example to the society. Demerit hampers the years of hard work to be a civil servant. इतने सालों मैंने तैयारी करी, उसका hard work अचानक it will go away. You know, I will not be able to reach the interview in time. Failing my and my family's dream. So again, adversely affecting. So you can write in that that my family's and my family's dream will be adversely affected. Unbalanced decision making in response to multiple needs. Third is admit them to a nearby hospital and quickly try to reach the interview venue. So rescue the relatives, realize my career goals, clear conscience. That is the merit. You take them to the hospital quickly, drop them, give some money to the cab driver and say, look after him. Ring up the relatives and say, ki bhai, I am going to the examination hall, you reach the hospital. So that will be with a clear conscience and you will be balancing both the dreams. So this is the merit. There is a risk of missing the interview, but there is a way. So let's see what can be done. So final course of action, what you will recommend. I shall choose the last option. What is the last option? Last option is admit them to a nearby hospital and quickly try to reach the interview venue. So as I told you, the last option should be the recommended option. Okay? And the first option should be the least practical option. That's the least practical option. Now, what will you do in such a situation? I shall choose the last option because I have a moral responsibility to help the victims and a personal responsibility to myself, my family and my career. I worked hard to reach the interview stage, so it makes sense to balance both these obligations. So my immediate response would be to quickly move the victims to my cab using Google Maps. I will check for nearby hospitals and find the shortest route possible to get there. I will call the hospital and ask them to arrange emergency services by the time we reach. Along the way, I will also call the relatives' family and tell them that they have met with an accident and ask them to reach the hospital. I will admit the victims to the hospital and pay any charges if required. If it gets late for the relatives to reach, I will entrust the cab driver to kindly look after her, pay him his waiting charges and proceed to the interview. That is the most practical one. It will also take care of your duties as a civil servant, prospective civil servant, as a person who is a philanthropist, and will also take care that you do not miss the interview, you are able to reach time. So in the meanwhile, I will also check. Now this is another part to that, because you have to take care of every possible thing. I will also reach out to anyone in the UPSC and inform the interview panel about my situation and tell them that I may be late. If I do get delayed, I will make every attempt to convince the authorities involved as to why I was late. As soon as the interview is done, I will come back to the hospital and check on the victim's condition and help them in any way I can. As remarked by Gandhiji. So now last is a tagline, a quote. So as remarked by Gandhiji, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. This appeared in one of the 2023 paper also, if I remember correctly. By helping people, we not only make the world a better place, but also stay true to our conscience. It leads to harmony, balancing social good with personal ambition. So what to study? Ethics paper. Second ARC. Try to read it. Ethics in Public Administration by Patrick Sheeran. NCERT Psychology books 11 and 12 selected chapters. Citizen-centric administration ARC2 12th report. Yojana issue Good Governance 2013, Inclusive Governance 2013, Reforms in Public Administration 2014, Lexicon for Ethics, Integrity and Aptitude, Civil Services Chronicle. They are some of the books which are good. You can go through them. More mechanical, na? More tougher words. So therefore, lexicon, yes, is slightly, a difficult book. So then I will tell you. Okay. So biographies of experiments with truth, Varghese Kurian autobiography, Swami Vivekanand Karma Yoga and his biography, selected articles by Immanuel Kant as Aristotle. There is a BBC website also on ethics. So you can read these things. And as I told you, the book by Raj Gopalan is a very good book. So that was this. Lexicon is a slightly difficult book. You don't have to necessarily consult a lexicon. I will do one thing. I have got a huge glossary with me, and which I have prepared over the years. I will pass it on to the vision, and they can in turn pass it on to all of you, so that you don't have to study from any of the books. So that is taken care of by that thing. Okay.
Actor and actress have a huge salary, should not put a cap on it and share extra money for the marginal section and poor section of society. The same question, this question is asked in my mock interview yesterday.
Acha, okay. So as I told you that this kind of question is asked, that celebrities like cricketers, doctors or actors, they get huge amount of salary. Should we not put a cap on that? You should say yes, there has to be something, because otherwise it goes beyond the reach. For example, doctors and lawyers, that profession goes out of the reach of the common man. So some kind of, though ideally it would be to have a self-regulation, but in India, it's not possible to have a self-regulation always. So ideally we should definitely have some kind of a cap. Like there is a cap already on the salaries of the executive, chief executive by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. There is already a cap. If you open up Ministry of Corporate Affairs, every CEO and all those people, they have to take permission about the salary which is to be paid. So on the same manner, something. So first read corporate governance and see whether the Ministry of Corporate Affairs has got a cap. You have to justify your answer. Some people will say, why should there be? If they are getting a higher salary, well, it is their right. So therefore, it is a slightly dicey question where you are caught either way. You skipped this. You said that I would like to leave that question. It's a slightly dicey question. But if I were to give answers, I would like to answer it this way. You give both pros and cons. The pros are that ultimately we live in an egalitarian society, and the extremes should not happen. We should try to ensure that certain services like the legal services and the health services should be available freely to the people at a low cost. At the same time, putting a cap would mean that we are putting a artificial cap, and everyone has a right. It should be regulated by the market forces, and if the market forces, they are getting higher salary, why should not be? So if you give pros and cons, then at least part of the answer you would give. Then they will ask this question, what is your view? So they will ask for your view. So then you have to say probably just like there is a kind of regulation on the salaries of the executives of the companies, some kind of thing could be applied in that case also. Yeah, that also is possible, that you bring them under the ambit of CSR, that if they get so much of salary, they should also contribute to the society. So both the options, both answers are good enough. You can bring it this way, yes, let them get the salary, but let the CSR be also applied. Or second could be, but that you can check up. My information is that Ministry of Corporate Affairs every time the salary of the top executives are fixed by the private companies or the government companies. It is regulated by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. So if they can regulate it, then probably it can be regulated in respect of other professions also. Particularly, you say there are two professions which I would like to mention. One is the legal profession and the other profession is the health. So the doctors and this. I would like to answer this. Whenever there is a controversial question, always give both the sides. And if they insist on your opinion, then what you do, I used to do, is that I used to tell the candidates was that if there is a controversial question, then always remain number one. If there is a court order on that, then lean on that court order. Ayodhya temple, or for example Article 370, it's all laid by the law, by the Supreme Court. So you say it has already been laid by this, they have adequately dealt with that issue. If there is no court order, but there is a government thinking on the subject, though go by the government thinking. It can be reservation, it can be surgical strikes and so on, citizenship register. So if there is a, for example, same-sex marriage, there is a difference of opinion between, there you have to be slightly treading on balance. You would have to say that it's a very wide social issue, and probably some kind of consensus is necessary, which can only be brought about by taking care of all stakeholders. They must come and they must think about all the pros and cons and then come out with an answer which may be acceptable to the largest number of people. So consensus building would have to be required. Sometimes you have to give answers which are safe answers, rather than giving answers which may unnecessarily provoke any one of the members in that panel, which is not your job at all. Why should you provoke? Yeah. Okay. So first question in 2023. In any case, I'm sure many of you might have already solved it, but so what do you understand by moral integrity and professional efficiency in the context of corporate governance in India? This was one of the question, first question. Illustrate with suitable examples. So this is a theory part A. It's not part B. Case studies, it is the theory part. So the approach should be like this. Define, so there are, which are the words? Moral integrity, professional efficiency and corporate governance. So define corporate governance. Corporate governance is a set of systems and processes to ensure that the company is managed to suit the best interest of all stakeholders. Simple definition, but you will define the corporate governance. Then linking the concept of corporate governance with moral integrity and professional efficiency. So what is professional efficiency? Which involves competence, standards and best practices. And moral integrity, it is adherence to moral principles. So you will define all the key words in that question. And then moral integrity and professional efficiency in the context of corporate governance, you give examples. Moral integrity, prevent corruption. For example, PNB scandal 2018 and Satyam scam 2019, they are examples where moral integrity was lost completely. Okay. So in corporate governance, moral integrity is necessary. Prevent corruption, boosts investment. For example, Tatas are known for moral integrity, so it boosts investment. Why does it boost investment? Find of? Yeah, trust, absolutely correct. So people have a trust, just like we purchase our provisions from a shop and in whom we trust. We'll go to that shop only. Sabzi wale se bhi usi se kharidenge jisme hame trust hota hai. In the same way, Tata's people, namak kharidenge to probably Tata namak kharidenge. And similarly, we will purchase from some company which is safeguarding the environmental interests also. So this is how the corporate governance, moral integrity helps in boost investment and culture of integrity. So ethical behavior rewarding. So if the ethical behavior, so if there is a moral integrity, it introduces a culture of integrity where the ethical behavior of the people is rewarded. Those who practice ethical behavior, they are rewarded. Okay, and moral integrity in corporate governance. So that was and risk management. So the first is risk management. So Deloitte report 75% of IDs crucial in fraud prevention and response. And for example, Mahindra's innovation and risk taking, it helps in growth. So these are the 5, so prevents corruption, boosts investment, culture of integrity, risk management, growth. So you will then end up by highlighting essential principle of corporate success, saying that moral integrity has helped Tata's, it has helped many other companies in their growth, and professional efficiency. If there is a professional efficiency, you have the faith of the stakeholder. If a company is run on efficient lines, it naturally gets the faith and trust of the people. So this is how you will answer that question. 1B, international aid is an accepted from helping resource challenged nations. Comment on ethics in contemporary international aid. Support your answer with suitable examples. Now the answer which I am giving you here may not always be the answer. You can have your own answer also. This is just by way of giving you an idea as to how answers are to be written. But you can use many other ways of different words in that answer. So let's give an example. Approach. You have to first of all understand which are the keywords. So international aid, what is the definition of international aid? Ethics in contemporary international aid. So there is a Rawls viewpoint, duty to aid the deprived nations as a duty of justice addressing basic human rights. So you will mention Rawls principle. Then ideal objectives. So what are the objectives? You can write down poverty reduction, education, health. You can even write down SDGs and MDGs ultimately, and emergency assistance, for example, India's COVID vaccine, so donation, building local capacity and self-sufficiency. Even in Nepal, Kathmandu, there was an earthquake, so India came to their rescue. Turkey also there was this, India came to their rescue. Even in cases of Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, India came to their rescue. Many African countries also India came. So this is how you will write down. And one of the biggest example was COVID-19 vaccine. So that was, some people called this as a COVID diplomacy, but soft policy. So the important thing you have to understand is that meaning of international aid is promoting global peace, security and global solidarity, and you will mention what exactly is ethics. So basically the ethics word is also need to be defined in contemporary international aid. So what is the ethics? So the ethics is aid leading to state corruption, dependency and neo-colonialism. So these are the challenges. These were ethics, these were the challenges to the ethics. Okay. So misuse of aid for harmful purposes. For example, Pakistan's alleged use of aid for terrorism. Who was giving the aid? USA. So yes. So USA's aid to Pakistan, that was misused. So that was a challenge of the ethics, which was through aid which was given to them. And misuse of aid for harmful purposes, and then tied aid leading to profiteering and hindering local development. For example, China's approach in BRI countries. Okay. And conclusion is ethical intent and sustainable development in international aid. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. You say about Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, you can also talk about India's commitment to the nations, Panchsheel, and all those things you can mention. So that was the question. Any observations? If you have any query or observation in respect of this, such kind of questions will come in your. Therefore, you have to have a good amount of knowledge. You see, case studies are not that difficult. Because case studies you will be able to do some brainstorming and think of yourselves, putting yourself in that position. In the case of theory, again, values is not a difficult thing, but such topics like emotional intelligence or international aid, there you need to slightly study a greater deal in order to come up with good answer. And all answer, yes sir. Hmm. Hmm.
After that, they are not using the international aid for their peoples. Instead of they are putting another country as a loan or as a funding for another country. Why?
So if it is a tied funds, then they cannot use for any other purpose. If it is an untied aid, they can always use it for.
Time it gets untied funds. India getting, I think, a rank 1 or 2 in international aid. But instead of using for their peoples, they are India doing
Yes.
for another country and putting all these aid for another country.
So that again is debatable, because the government's viewpoint is that human beings exist everywhere, and an Indian is as important as a human being in any other country. That is why COVID vaccine was given. So if you talk about restrictive, that looking India inside, like America, Trump said that America first, and looking. So if you take that policy, yes, it is wrong. But if you consider it as Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that everyone on this earth, after all, is entitled to the basic amenities, then it is right. So in fact, when you talk about ethics, ethics talks about the entire world rather than talking about the boundaries. And that is what the Kofi Annan also said, that we have problems without passports and they require solution without passports. So you just quote that thing and you say that even if India is using that thing for another country, after all, the problems are everywhere. Problem without passports requires solutions without passports. Okay, so my answer to that would be in favor if it is untied. If it is tied, no, then India has no authority to use it for any country. But if it is untied, then India has the prerogative. It is a democracy. It can use it for either its own people or for the people. Yeah.
Social value are more important than economic value in context of inclusive growth of nation.
Huh.
Why? Because in modern times, economic value is more important than social value in current scenario. But it both are contracting with each other: social value and economic value.
I would like to give that example by giving the example of Bhutan, where I would say that social values were kept higher in mind. That is because they had the happiness of the citizens in mind. So economic progress probably is not so important as when you compare it with the happiness. So social progress definitely leads to an improved health, improved education, improved well-being, and it will lead to the general happiness amongst the people. And ultimately, it is the happiness which counts. So therefore, my view is that social progress is far more important. And then you can quote Amartya Sen. Amartya Sen also said, yes, Amartya Sen said that so much of GDP we must spend on the education and the health sectors, isn't it? And that is why the infrastructure was not ready during COVID-19. So you say economic progress is important, but not at the expense of the social progress. So I would always put social progress as far more important. And you can use Amartya Sen's saying And I think Gandhiji also would have said something on that score, that ultimately, and Bhutan's example. Would you not agree to that? Anyone would like to supplement that answer? That question regarding economic progress and the social progress, which is more important and why it is more important, why we should concentrate more on that. For example, a country may have huge economic progress, but its people may be very unhappy people. So what is the point of having an economy progress if you can't satisfy, if you can't ensure the people's happiness? So therefore, at any cost, at the end of the day, the citizen of this country should be happy. So that is how you will give answer to that. Okay, right. Corruption is the manifestation of the failure of core values in the society. In your opinion, what measure can be adopted to uplift the core values in the society? So the approach would be, corruption is the word, so define corruption. Corruption is the misuse of public office or power for private benefit. World Bank definition, use of public office for private gain. Encompassing acts like bribery, fraud, nepotism and embezzlement. So corruption is the manifestation of failure of core values. So they say कि society में जितना ज़्यादा core values में गिरावट आएगी, उतना corruption जो है हमारा बढ़ता जाएगा. That is the essence of the question. In your opinion, what measure can be done to uplift the core values in the society? Why don't you come forward with some answers? How will you bring
and when there is a integrity, is lack of integrity, it leads always corruption. So the public service or any civil servants needs to be integral or openness or truthfulness or accountable, so it can easily tackle with the problems like corruption.
Yeah, correct. At the same time, you can also add that there is a need for electoral reforms and police reforms, administrative reforms, and judicial reforms, so that justice is achieved as quickly as possible. In elections, the money which plays part, that should be avoided, because the corruption starts at the time of election and then it grows. And then transparency, accountability, that should be done as much as possible. So failure of core values, disrespecting human dignity, welfare schemes exploited, for example, intermediaries siphoning of the funds. So we are giving examples. So of why corruption happens. Some people they actually misuse the official funds, or flexible integrity. So there are the integrity goes away. So integrity, there is a lack of integrity. Weak governance, so centralized power, poor accountability, cases of fugitive economic offenders, Vijay Mallya and Nirav Modi, Harshad Mehta. So these are all examples. So blurred accountability. So ultimately the core values in the society can only be improved if you have, number one, greater accountability. And lastly but not the least, which answer you should also include, is that number one, we should include moral education at the school and college level, because that is where the children, they are imbibed the core values, and we are not paying sufficient attention to that. So I think education, they need to have a very, very great reforms, though the new education policy has been brought. But I think that inculcating ethics and values among civil servant would be half the purpose would be achieved if you inculcate moral values amongst the children at their school level itself. So that again can be included as a part of your answer. Okay. And accountability, of course, is there. Okay. So measures to uplift core values in the society. some more values. So education, family, moral education, we have already talked. Societal level, so rationality, participation and ethical leadership, social audit mechanism. So where has it been adopted? Social audit? Manrega also. So social audit is a way to reduce corruption. And at government level, strengthen accountability mechanism, right to information. So community action as a remedy to corruption. So making people aware of their rights and duties so that they can come. For example, in foreign countries, they carry out picketing. Have you heard about picketing? What is picketing? So if someone has a grievance against a store or a shop, they would go and sit in dharna there. That is called as picketing. So they have different ways of expressing their anger against injustice or corruption. So I think greater people's participation is necessary to improve the core values and bring down corruption, and strict action against the delinquent government employees is also necessary. So in the context of work environment, differentiate between coercion and undue influence with suitable examples. So what is coercion and what is undue influence? So let's see. Approach would be, you would first of all define work environment. So work environment is a combination of physical and non-physical elements affecting job performance. Impact: positive environment enhances productivity. Toxic elements like coercion and undue influence hinder it. So both are bad. Coercion is also bad, undue influence is also bad. They have an impact on the work environment. So then you will have a tabular form. Again, as I told you, if you introduce a tabular form, it creates a much, it's easier to understand. So you create a tabular form, and definition, nature and motive. So coercion is use of force. For example, a manager threatens the employees. Undue influence is manipulating or exploiting someone's trust or dependency. For example, suggestion to the promotion, that if you do that, for example, civil servants are sometimes lured that if you do this thing, we will give you get you better postings. So that is a kind of undue influence. And another way I saw that many ministers, they tell the civil servants कि ऐसा है साहब, वो जो सड़क निकलनी है ना, तो वो आप इधर से निकाल दीजिएगा, तो उसमें ये होगा एडवांटेज कि इधर की ज़मीन बहुत महंगी हो जाएगी जहाँ से सड़क निकलेगी, एंड दैट डेवलपर is going to benefit out of it, and we will see to it कि one plot you get and one plot I also get, you see. So that is the kind of undue influence, उसको lure कर रहे हैं. So this is this thing which happens many times. So that is called as undue influence. But coercion is तुम करो नहीं तो तुम्हारा संग ये होगा. That is forcibly doing it. So you will have a tabular form. And then nature. Nature, coercion is direct, explicit. This is subtle. Undue influence is subtle. And motive is, coercion is intimidation, and undue influence is exploitation. So this is the difference. And conclusion is promoting ethical practices for a healthy work environment. So this is how you will explain the difference. Any questions so far? Yes, Mike.
So as we see in ethical dilemmas, there is a high subjectivity, right? If we take an example of development versus nature conservation, so one can see nature conservation is more important as compared to development, and one can see development is more important than nature conservation. Like in our group, we used to debate, and we got conflict also in the issues like same-sex marriage and other issues. So how to tackle these types of questions and do a perfect answer with respect to this? Like examiner's view, he sees something else like the perfect one, and in our view, we see something else. So there is a high subjectivity in some questions. So how to deal with that question?
Okay. So my view is that I would like to explain it with the help of the utilitarian principle. Greatest good of the greatest number. If that activity results in the greatest good of the greatest number, even if it at the cost of environment, we should do that. For example, if a medicine is to be manufactured, which is a life-saving medicine, it is going to save the lives of human beings. Even if it leaves some pollution, I would still go for that, because it is ultimately going to be life-saving. So if there is a dam which is ultimately going to irrigate thousands of acres of land, benefiting a large number of agriculturalists, and thereby increase production, I would do that. So I would like to give answer that utilitarian principle, the greatest good of the greatest number, means are not so important, ends results are important. So that is the answer which I will give, because if I start talking about that development should not take place, someone in the panel will say, why? Development is required. And if you say, no, the development should not take place, and the other side, someone will say that environment is more important. Why development? So you will be unnecessarily caught. So I think that you should say both are important. It is contextual, depends on the context. If it is in the larger good of the humanity, greatest good of the greatest number, yes, development assumes priority over the environmental issues. But if it is not going to benefit anyone, but only a few selected people, then I would definitely put my foot down and I will say development is not important, environment is important. Would you agree to that?
Okay, so, but we are leaving some people behind in utilitarian approach. We are moving forward to a more large public audience like this, right? So we always used to adopt this principle, or in some contextual cases?
It is contextual. Again, somewhere, even the deontological principle is also a valid sometimes. Yeah, you wanted to say? So it is actually, I would say that it is contextual. Some ways it is deontological principle where means are important. You should follow the correct means. Like Gandhiji always said that one should always follow the correct means. But my view is that in the present day times, when there is so much of debate over development environment, at least in respect of this issue, I would say utilitarian approach is better than the deontological approach, because ultimately the saving the life of the people has a much larger purpose as compared to degradation of the environment. Because if you can produce a wonder drug, even if it produces certain amount of fumes, let us do that, because it will save many people. For example, if COVID drug produces a lot of environmental issues, but ultimately people are dying. So you need a COVID drug, anti-COVID drug. So therefore, I would like to say that, but as you rightly said, it is contextual. In respect of this, it will matter, definitely be applicable. But in some other cases, utilitarian approach may not be valid at all, deontological. So when a question is asked, that what do you think in administration we should follow? You say, sir, it is both kinds of approaches. It depends on case to case. You have to decide which approach, because ethics is not black and white. It is not something which is written in coded language. It is not law. It is something which varies from position to position. For example, a person, his wife is on deathbed and she's dying, and he does not have medicines or money to save his wife. So he goes and steals the medicine and then saves his wife. Now stealing is unlawful, and ordinarily the deontological person will say that you don't do that. But in the bargain, you steal the medicine, but you save the life of his wife. So therefore, it will be saving the life, and therefore it will be serving a higher value, a higher purpose. So that is how you will justify stealing there also. It's slightly, sometimes you feel कि यार ये यहाँ तो लग जाता है, वहाँ नहीं लग पाता है. It is contextual. It actually depends from situation to situation. But that is how a large number of environmental projects have come up in this country, whether it is Bhakla Nangal Dam or other projects. If they were not there, we would not have had the green revolution. We would not have so much of agricultural production. They were all at the cost of environment. But then sometime development is necessary. But if it profits only a few selected people, it is not largest good of the largest number, then I would not be in favor of the development project. Not happy?
Yeah, I'm satisfied.
Maza nahi aaya?
I'm satisfied with the answer.
Satisfied, no?
Yeah.
So that is how you will answer this question. In any case, in the interviews, you have to balance your answers.
And
Yeah.
so, what role emotional intelligence will play in that kind of contextual dilemma, right? Emotional intelligence, some kind it, put yourself in a kind of thing कि आप समझ नहीं आता फिर आप क्या करें. एक इमोशनल अटैचमेंट हो जाता है लाइक द वीकर सेक्शन से या लाइक उससे एंड द सुपीरियर अथॉरिटी इज कमांडिंग यू टू डू दैट थिंग एट एनी कॉस्ट देन वेयर यू फाइंड योर सेल्फ इन डीलिंग विद दैट डायलेमा in pursuing that emotional intelligence thing.
Okay. So when there is a conflict between two values, say for example compassion, and the other value is obeying the superior's orders. So I would in that situation probably go in for preserving my own value system. Because if there is an order which is against one value system, which is compassion, I would like to tell my superior, for example, everything is understand by example. Supposing it's winter season and people have encroached upon government land, and the directive is that you remove that encroachment. In that there will be ladies, there will be small children, there will be senior citizens also. So what I will do is that I will try to convince my senior officer saying, yes, we will do that, but not in winter season. So let us do it in summer season. In the meanwhile, let me construct some places of shelter, providing for water facilities, bathroom facilities, food facilities, children's education. Let 6 months pass, and in that we create the infrastructure, and then we remove these encroachments. So that is how I will in a way balance the two. I will not say no, but I will still prevail upon my values, that is compassion and empathy. So whenever there is such a situation, you understand the value of the other, the viewpoint of the other person. You cannot, that is emotional intelligence, understanding your emotion, understanding the emotion of others, and then maintaining a kind of relationship between the two by managing your emotions. So you are managing your emotion, you are also understanding the emotion of others. So sometimes emotional intelligence is necessary, and I have found many times. I can give, let me give you an example. Yeah, okay. So I was the district magistrate of Karnal, and my superintendent of police was one person from Kerala. His name was Koshi. So the chief minister, Mr. Bhajan Lal, he was under pressure from an MLA, and he wanted certain piece of land to be given to one particular religious community. And that, if that land was allotted, it would bring that religious community very close to another religious community, and there would be constant friction between the two. It would become a permanent source of problem and dispute amongst them. So for long-term peace, it was not a desirable thing, but he was under constant pressure. He was a very old and very senior MLA, and so the chief minister, and whenever the politician rings you up on a mobile phone or a landline, never say no. Kabhi mat na bolna, because you do not know, on the other side the microphone might be on and the other party may be sitting there. He would never like to listen no, because if you say no, तो चीफ मिनिस्टर की इज्जत क्या रह गई, आपने मना कर दिया उसको. द अदर पार्टी विल से कि आपकी तो कोई इज्जत ही नहीं, आपको तो डीएम सुनता ही नहीं है. सो देयरफॉर नेवर से नो. एंड यू नो व्हाट वी से, ठीक है सर, देख लेते हैं सर, मैम लेट मी हैव ए लुक एट इट सर, श्योरली सर, व्हाई नॉट सर, आई लेट यू कम बैक टू यू सर. एंड देन सो आई सेड सर कोई बात नहीं, देख लेते हैं सर, पता कर लेता हूँ डिटेल, मैं जरा इसका रेवेन्यू रिकॉर्ड वगैरह मंगवा लेता हूँ, लेट मी हैव ए लुक एट इट एंड देन I'll come back to you. Then I asked my superintendent of police. I said कि CM साहब कह के गए हैं ये, तो कहने लगे कि डी साहब ये तो प्रॉब्लम होगा बाद में लॉन्ग टर्म. हम लोग तो चलो 2 साल नहीं के बाद चले जाएंगे, बट इट विल क्रिएट ए प्रॉब्लम इन लॉन्ग टर्म. तो व्हाट डू वी डू? Emotional intelligence. You have to manage your CM. So then I rang up the CM's office and I said कि दिल्ली हरियाणा भवन कब आएंगे CM? So हरियाणा भवन में जब CM रहते थे तो बड़े खुश रहते थे. You know, चंडीगढ़ में he was always under tension. So I said कि कब आएंगे हरियाणा भवन? कहने लगे सर वो कल सुबह यहाँ होंगे. तो मैंने कहा कि टाइम ले लेना ज़रा, मैं और एसपी साहब आएंगे. सो ही सर हाँ सर आ जाइए. मैंने कहा कितने बजे? आ जाइएगा सर 7-8 बजे. मैंने कहा नहीं, सुबह सुबह कोई ना हो वहाँ उस समय, और उस समय दिमाग सीएम का फ्रेश होगा, खुश मूड में होंगे, गुडी गुडी होंगे. इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस. भजन लाल वॉज वेरी फॉन्ड ऑफ वेयरिंग. सुबह नहाते धोते थे और उसके बाद सफ़ेद कुर्ता धोती पहनकर वो अपने कमरे में जो है बैठ जाते थे. सो मॉर्निंग में हम लोग 4 बजे चले, सेम गाड़ी में दोनों बैठे, डीएम और एसपी, और हरियाणा भवन 2.5 घंटे में हम लोग पहुंचे. एंड वी वेंट टू हिज रूम एंड ही वाज देयर हैविंग हिज ब्रेकफास्ट. आइए आइए डी साहब आइए. अच्छा कुछ सब भी हैं? अच्छा आइए बैठिए. कैसे आना हुआ? सर वो आपने बताया था ना वो सर, तो वो देखा है उसको सर. तो सर वैसे तो ट्रांसफ़र कर सकते हैं, ऐसी कोई बात नहीं है, पर इसमें थोड़ी सी प्रॉब्लम्स आएंगी. दीज आर द प्रॉब्लम्स. और आप जानते हैं कि इस करनाल ज़िले में वैसे ही 2 कम्युनिटीज़ के बीच में देर इज़ ऑलवेज ए काइंड ऑफ ए डिस्प्यूट. देर आर 2 रिलीजियस प्लेसेस जिसमें डिस्प्यूट था. सो मैंने कहा कि सर वी विल बी क्रिएटिंग अनदर डिस्प्यूट हियर. अगर अवॉइड हो सकता है तो देख लीजिए, वरना आप जो कहेंगे तो करना तो है ही हमने. He was a very sensible man. He listened to us. Said, चलिए कोई बात नहीं, समझा देंगे उस एमएलए को. आपने जो बात कही है वो भी ठीक ही लग रही है, जाने दीजिए. मैंने कहा सर फिर कैंसिल कर दें? हाँ चलिए रहने दीजिए, कैंसिल कर दीजिए. मैंने कहा उनको कोई और लैंड दे देंगे सर, ऐसी क्या बात है, थोड़ा दूर कहीं दे देंगे, ऐसी क्या बात है, उस पास में देने की क्या ज़रूरत है. That was the end of it. If you talk to the politician at the appropriate time, in the right measure, you can win their hearts. And I have found most of the politicians very sensible. It is not correct to say that politicians create problems. The politicians may be unreasonable at times, but majority of the times, and particularly if you go and explain to them, they will always be favorable to you. Let me give you one more example so that it should motivate you to become a civil servant. I had a fight with my minister. He was a very famous minister, remained MLA 5 times. He was the industry minister के साथ excise taxation minister, all important portfolios were with that minister. So it's a long story, but I would only talk about part of the story. Excise, I was the excise and taxation commissioner. And as excise taxation commissioner, huge revenue is involved, 5,000 crores. And a auction, we carry out auction of the liquor vents. So liquor vents में अगर छोटा मोटा भी change हो जाए, it leads to crores of revenue, which is lost. So the minister had some interests and he wanted particular auction to be left in favor of someone at a certain price. And I wanted that we should get maximum price. And therefore, when in that formulation of excise policy, whenever that problem came from the minister who was pressurizing me, so I would go to the next step, that is the chief minister. And I will go, I had a full conversation. You see, the chief minister and the prime minister, they are also ultimately interested in good governance. They don't want these kind of things to happen by people down below. So they put such people as the bureaucrats who can oppose that minister, who can speak against that minister. They are very happy कि अगर secretary और minister के बीच में झगड़ा है, CM would be very happy बिकॉज ही विल से कि दोनों के बीच में जो है ये मिनिस्टर को यही कंट्रोल कर सकता है. सो ही हैड पुट मी देयर. And in excise auction, whenever I used to go to my chief minister, and he would say, I'd say कि sir वो मंत्री जी ये चाहते हैं, and it is not in the revenue's interest. So he would say कि अच्छा कोई बात नहीं, तो ऐसा करना, फाइल जो है मुझसे करा लेना. तो मैंने कहा सर वो मंत्री जी के थ्रू जानी है. कहेंगे जिस दिन मंत्री जी टूर पर हो ना उस दिन फाइल भेजना. और उनके मंत्री जी से लिखवा लेना, उनके प्राइवेट सेक्रेटरी से कि द मिनिस्टर इज ऑन टूर and it is a very urgent file, it has to be cleared by the chief minister. So I used to take these files. मैं कहाँ है मंत्री जी? सर मंत्री जी तो दौरे पर गए हुए हैं अपनी कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी. अरे भाई बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट फाइल है, अभी अवे लिखो, मंत्री अवे. And then I would take the file to the CMs and I will get the signature and I will issue the notification before the minister had come back. फिर वो बहुत जलता भुनता था, गुस्सा करता था, लेकिन कुछ नहीं कर सकता था. आफ्टर ऑल CM ने कर दी थी उसके अंदर अप्रूवल. It went on and the minister became very unhappy with me. He was very angry. And then I transferred 2-3 people, more than 2-3 people, maybe about a half a dozen people, who were his cronies from their seats, जो field में लगे हुए थे, on the ground that they were not getting sufficient revenue. I transferred them. Now what happened was that transfer is within the power of the minister only. As head of the department, I cannot transfer. They are group B people. But there was a proviso there. I could transfer their headquarter for 4 months. 4 महीने के लिए मेरे पास पावर थे. तो I took advantage of that power and I transferred those 6-7 people against the minister's interests. And the minister came to know about it. And he was furious. And he rang me up. He said, आपने इन लोगों का ट्रांसफर कैसे कर दिया? आपको पता नहीं है कि ये पावर जो है मिनिस्टर के पावर है? मैंने कहा सर वो ऐसा था कि उसमें एक प्रोवाइजो है कि HOD के पास पावर है, ही कैन ट्रांसफर फॉर 4 months. ना 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 ना, वो सब नहीं है, वो सब कोई पावर नहीं है. आप जो है रिवर्स कीजिए ऑर्डर्स को तुरंत. दे शुड गो बैक टू देयर ओरिजिनल सीट्स. मैंने कहा सर अब तो कर दिया है, 2 महीने तो गुजर भी गए हैं, तो हो जाने दीजिए, अब नॉर्मल ट्रांसफर में देख लेंगे. He was very angry. He asked for my written explanation how the Excise and Taxation Commissioner had transferred these officers when he did not have the powers to transfer. So I dug out all the old papers, my predecessors who had carried similar transfers. I took them out and then I sent the note back to the minister saying कि my all predecessors have been doing it. It is a routine thing. It's not something which I have done alone. So the minister became even more angry. And now he said to my secretary, so the boss to whom I was repeating. So there was a minister, there is a head of the department, that is me, and in between there is a secretary. Okay. My name was Krishna Mohan. My secretary's name was Vishnu Bhagwan. By coincidence. So I went to Mr. Vishnu Bhagwan. I said, sir, वो मंत्री ने मेरे खिलाफ लिखा है नोट. हाँ यार मैंने सुना है, क्या बात होगी, नाराज हो गया? मैंने कहा सर ये कारण. अच्छा कोई नहीं, तुम भेज देना मेरे पास. मैंने फाइल जो थी बनाई और सेक्रेटरी को भेज दी. मैंने कहा मिस्टर विष्णु भगवान से, मैंने कहा सर अब आप मेरे को, यू मस्ट डिफेंड मी देयर. कहते हैं कि अच्छा जरूरत क्या पड़ गई? मैंने कहा सर ऐसा है, मैं वो ऑर्डर भी लाया था अपने साथ जो मिस्टर विष्णु भगवान ने इशू किए थे जब वो मेरी सीट पर थे. He had served on my seat also several years back when he was junior. He had also issued similar orders. मैंने कहा सर ये ऑर्डर आपने भी इशू किए थे? ऐसे लाया हूँ. हाँ यार मैंने भी इशू किए थे. अच्छा चलो कोई नहीं, करते हैं डिफेंड. Then he wrote in favor of me and went to the minister. The minister became even more angry कि यार ये तो सेक्रेटरी भी उसको डिफेंड कर रहा है. And he then asked for an explanation of the secretary. How dare you support the head of the department? You should have called for his explanation. You should have reversed those orders. So he asked for the explanation of the secretary. तो विष्णु भगवान पुराने खुर्राट सेक्रेटरी थे हमारे, उन्होंने फाइल रख ली. भेजूंगा ही नहीं मिनिस्टर के पास. तो मिनिस्टर became very angry. He initiated a new file and he wrote to the chief minister saying that both secretary and the head of the department, they are in cahoots with each other, and they have passed orders against the government rules and regulations, and their explanation should be called. So the file reads the chief minister. So the chief minister's secretary, who was a very senior IAS officer, so he sent message to me. जरा आना कृष्ण मोहन, मैंने कहा था ये फाइल है तुम्हारे खिलाफ लिख के आई है, तुम्हारे और विष्णु भगवान जी के। मैंने कहा सर ट्रांसफर मैंने किए हैं इन द इंटरेस्ट ऑफ रेवेन्यू, मेरा कोई पर्सनल इंटरेस्ट तो है नहीं। आई डोंट इवन नो दीज पीपल बट दे हैव नॉट परफॉर्म्ड वेल, सो आई हैव ट्रांसफर्ड देम। देयर आर पावर्स, 4 months की पावर है, आप भी जानते हैं। और मैंने कहा सर मैं द सेक्रेटरी जो चीफ मिनिस्टर के थे वो भी उस पोस्ट पर रह चुके थे जिस पर मैं इस समय था, मैं उनके ऑर्डर लेकर भी साथ गया। मैंने कहा सर आप जब थे तो यू हैड आल्सो इशूड दीज ऑर्डर्स। कहने अच्छा मैंने भी इशू किए थे। तो मैंने कहा सर अब आपको तो डिफेंड करना पड़ेगा ना, जब आप इशू कर सकते हैं तो मैं भी तो कर सकता हूँ इशू। कहते हैं यार मामला बड़ा कॉम्प्लेक्स हो गया है, ही इज ए वेरी सीनियर मिनिस्टर। मैंने कहा क्या दिक्कत है, सीएम को लिखना चाहिए, he should defend me. He said no, it is a very very delicate issue and the CM would like to deal with it in a political manner. He will not write on the file, he will call for a meeting in which all of you will be called, all the stakeholders. So we were all the stakeholders, they will all be called. So agle din, you know something, what a great man Bhajan Lal was, chief minister. He called me and Vishnu Bhagwan, my secretary. कोई और नहीं था कमरे में। हाँ क्या हो गया, तेरा मंत्री तेरे से नाराज है? मैंने कहा हाँ सर वो ऑर्डर कर दिए थे तो मैंने कहा सब इंटरेस्ट में किए हैं, कोई मेरा इंटरेस्ट पर्सनल नहीं है। और आप भी जानते हैं कि मैंने एक्साइज के अंदर आई हैड गिवन एन इंक्रीज ऑफ 30% as against 10% of the previous years. So the CM was very happy because you remember I told you that minister was wanting to give in favor of some other licenses. I had not allowed that to happen and the revenue had enhanced to 30%. So मैंने कहा सर आप तो जानते हैं मंत्री जी का इंटरेस्ट हमेशा रहा है। कहने लगे बात तो ठीक कह रहे हो तुम, अच्छा अब सुनो, देखो ऐसा है कल मैं मंत्री जी को बुलाऊंगा और उसके बाद तुम दोनों को बुलाऊंगा, उनके सामने तुमको झूठ मूठ का डांटूंगा, बुरा मत मानना, करना वही जो तुम्हारी मर्जी हो। उनके सामने मुझे इंपॉर्टेंट एमएलए है, मुझे उसकी भी इज्जत तो रखनी है। सो आई विल रेप्रीमैंड यू बट दैट विल बी डिवॉइड ऑफ एनीथिंग, इट इज जस्ट लाइक दैट, झूठ मूठ का। तो तुम उसको बुरा मत मानना, उनके सामने मुझे ये कहना पड़ेगा, बाकी तुम्हारी मर्जी है, जैसा तुम चाहो चलाओ डिपार्टमेंट को, इट इज योर विश। अगले दिन मैसेज आया, जब हम लोग उनके कमरे में पहुंचे तो मंत्री जी ऑलरेडी चौड़े बैठे हुए थे। तो हाँ अरोड़ा साहब क्या हो गया? अरे साहब ये देखिए ये दोनों अधिकारी लोग जो हैं ऑर्डर्स की हुक्मदुली कर रहे हैं, गवर्नमेंट ऑर्डर सेज कि मिनिस्टर इज कॉम्पिटेंट टू ट्रांसफर, इन्होंने ट्रांसफर कर दिया। और मैंने जब इसको फोन किया ना तो ही पॉइंटेड टुवर्ड्स मी, इसने पूरी बात सुने बगैर फोन पटक दिया सर। यू नो सो व्हाट हैपेंस इज कि जब उनको एलिगेशन लगाना होता है तो और ज़्यादा एलिगेशन लगाते हैं बताने के लिए कि देखो सर इतनी बदतमीजी करी इसने। तो मैंने कहा नहीं सर, फ़ोन पटकने का तो कोई मतलब ही नहीं था, मुझे ऐसा लगा होगा कि आपने बात ख़त्म कर दी है तो मैंने इसलिए फ़ोन रख दिया होगा। अगर मुझे पता लगता कि आप लाइन पर हैं तो मेरी हिम्मत है कि आपके फ़ोन पर मैं पटक। और सर ये देखिए ट्रांसफ़र किए हैं, सीएम साहब सीएम को शिकायत करने लगे। तो सीएम ने अब देखिए क्या किया, अरे कृष्ण मोहन जी हमारे बहुत ही ज़्यादा प्रोमिनेंट मंत्री हैं, इतने पुराने सीनियर मंत्री हैं, इनकी बात आदेश की आपने पालना नहीं करी। जब इन्होंने कहा था तो आपको इनके आदेश की पालना करनी चाहिए थी, ऐसे थोड़ी करते हैं। आफ्टर ऑल डेमोक्रेसी है हमारी, हम लोग एक बंधे हुए एक नियम से, ही इज़ ए वेरी सीनियर मिनिस्टर, यू शुड हैव एग्रीड टुवर्ड दैट। और विष्णु भगवान जी आप तो और सीनियर हैं, अरे आपको तो और अच्छी तरह समझना चाहिए था कि जब अरोड़ा जी कह रहे हैं तो यू शुड हैव सीन टू इट कि इस तरह की डिस्प्यूट ना उठे। तो देखिए भाई सुनिए, आप दोनों समझ लीजिए, आइंदा से मंत्री जी जो भी कहेंगे ना आपको उनका पालन करना है, कभी भी ऐसी नहीं होनी चाहिए। दोबारा इनको जो है मुझे आपके खिलाफ शिकायत करने का मौका नहीं मिलना चाहिए। हमने कहा नहीं सर, आपकी आदेश है, सर माथे पर, कोई ऐसी बात ही नहीं है, आगे कोई इनको मौका नहीं मिलेगा ऐसे करने पर। अब जो हमने कर दिया है वो तो कर दिया है, तो आगे से नहीं करेंगे उसको हम जो है। हाँ हाँ ठीक है ठीक है। तो और मंत्री जी आप सुन लीजिए, मैंने आपके सामने इनको डांट दिया है, बिल्कुल चिंता मत कीजिए, आपकी पूरी वो रहेगी। तो वो बड़े खुश हुए, उठने लगे। आखिरी वर्ड भजन लाल का था, अच्छा और अरोड़ा साहब ऐसा है, ये क्या आप छोटे छोटे काम में लगे रहते हैं? अरे आप मंत्री हैं, आप विदेशों के दौरे करिए, मीटिंग करिए, पॉलिसी बनाइए, मीटिंग्स करके सीनियर अधिकारी फॉरेन फंक्शनरीज के साथ मीटिंग करिए, दूसरे देशों में जाइए। ये क्या टुच्चे बुच्चे काम ट्रांसफर पोस्टिंग में आप पड़े? अरे इनको छोड़िए, इनके लिए हाथ में ये टारगेट इनको अचीव करने होते हैं, आपको थोड़ी करने होते हैं। आप राइज करिए, आप 5 बार MLA रह चुके, यू आर ए मिनिस्टर नाउ 5 times. Why do you spend your energies into these small things? Let this be rest. आप तो आपको कहाँ जाना है बताइए, कहाँ, यूरोप जाना है, अमेरिका जाना है, बताइए ना आप मुझे। आई विल इमीडिएटली अप्रूव योर प्लान्स। आप जाइए वहां पर, देश का प्रतिनिधित्व करिए वहां पर आप। उसमें वो खुश होकर वो वहां से चले गए। आई नेवर हैड एनी प्रॉब्लम आफ्टर दैट। एंड दिस इज हाउ, यू नो, आई ऑलवेज से दैट नेवर बी अफ्रेड ऑफ द पॉलिटिशियंस। द politicians are very good at heart. Like for example, in this case Bhajan Lal, many instances I can give you when another Chief Minister Bansi Lal was there. Even Narendra Modi, or for that Morarji Desai, or Atal Bihari Vajpayee, every chief executive, they are ultimately interested in the good governance, good of the country. Okay, so so that was this question. Gandhi ji quotation. So this is the simplest acts of kindness are by far more powerful than 1,000 heads bowing in prayer. तो उन्होंने कहा काइंडनेस जो है वो कहीं ज़्यादा महत्वपूर्ण है इसके मुकाबले में कि 1000 हेड्स जो हैं वो नीचे बाव करते हैं। ओके, सो द अप्रोच इज फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल इंटरप्रिटेशन एंड एक्सप्लेनेशन. सो यू विल राइट काइंडनेस, कंपैशन. So you will write active compassion is more impactful than passive prayer. So prayer is passive, but compassion is action. When you add action to the empathy, then it becomes compassion. So therefore, a compassion is more impactful than a passive prayer. Gandhi ji highlights that while prayer has value, tangible acts of kindness lead to more immediate and effective change than spiritual contemplation. So you will justify that the doing something good to the other is far more important than to pray in silence. And he emphasizes the importance of proactive, compassionate action in creating real impact. And then exemplify the reasons for kindness being more powerful. So if you are kind, it promotes unity. For example, neighbors helping during lockdowns, fostering togetherness. In the case of COVID-19, the neighbors came. You remember the laborers who were there walking on the road, people came to help them. That was an act of kindness or compassion. That is much more powerful. Catalyze the positive change. So community, little libraries encouraging literacy. For example, the community which they open up small libraries. Strengthen moral fabric, offering seats to elderly on public transport. So you get up, you know, when an elderly person or a woman comes, one should get up. And then emotional and psychological benefits, for example, handwritten thank you note or smileys uplifting spirits, enhances public trust. IPS officer Ankita Sharma, Chhattisgarh, teaching underprivileged children, enhancing trust. So this is how you will say that the kindness, action of kindness is far more important. Again, you have given examples. So through examples, you will be able to do that. I'm not saying that this is the best answer. You can always come up with even more innovative answer than that. Okay. Acha, this year you had appeared. Okay, what is the answer you gave? Thoda different tha. ठीक है, perfectly fine. Important thing is you should be able to understand that. Similarly, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru said, To awaken the people, it is the women who must be awakened. Once she is on the move, the family moves, the village moves, and the nation moves. So you will interpret, so you will write interpretation and explanation. That is, empowering women leads to societal transformation. You can also write that if you empower one woman, it actually empowers more than one family. So that is the family of where she belongs and where she is ultimately married. And not only that, even the children also ultimately, the third family. So then women's economic empowerment, Operation Flood in collaboration with NGOs. What was Operation Flood? Milk. National level, okay, village level. For example, Sushma Bhadu's educational, initiatives. National level, there are different women who have come forward, and Malala Yousafzai's, contribution, or even the contribution of that environmentalist, that is Mathai, and then of course Lijjat Papad and Seva and so many, yeah. Satyajit. What was Satyajit? No, that is Kailash Satyarthi. Kailash Satyarthi along with Malala, both of them got Nobel Prize. Yes, correct. What was the name of the program of Kailash Satyarthi? Bachpan, correct? Bachpan Bachao. Okay, right. Vivekanand, do not hate anybody, because that hatred that comes out from you must in the long run come back to you. So if you love, that love will come back to you, completing the circle, Swami Vivekanand. Just in lighter vein, to lighten up the atmosphere, there was an employee who was working in a shop. तो जो शॉपकीपर जो था, उसको किसी बात पर अपने एम्प्लॉई से बहुत गुस्सा आया. उसने अपने एम्प्लॉई को एक झापड़ मारा. तो एम्प्लॉई को बड़ा गुस्सा आया, लेकिन उसका वो मालिक था, उसको तो कुछ कर नहीं सकता था. He came back home and he slapped his wife. And then the wife was very angry. यार क्यों मेरे को मार दिया? उसने अपने बड़े बेटे को झापड़ मार दिया. बड़े बेटे ने कहा कि अब किसको मारूं मैं? तो उसको छोटा भाई दिखा, तो उसने छोटे भाई को झापड़ मार दिया. अब छोटे भाई के आगे तो कोई और था नहीं. तो बाहर आया, उसने वहाँ एक कुत्ता देखा, उसने कुत्ते को लात मारी. कुत्ता भागा और उसने एक आदमी के पैर में काटा. ये आदमी वही था जिसने उस एम्प्लॉय को झापड़ मारा था. सो अल्टीमेट, so it is ultimately it goes around. So whatever you do good, it comes around good. If you do bad, it comes around bad. So that is the law of nature. एंड इसमें कोई गलती नहीं होती, क्योंकि वो जो वहाँ पर सुपर कंप्यूटर ऊपर लगा हुआ है ना, वो सब कुछ देखता है. उसमें 0.0001% भी गलती नहीं होती है. वो कहते हैं ना कि एक बार एक आदमी ने फल देखा, तो उसके मन में लालसा हुई. बड़ा सुंदर आम था, मन में बड़ी लालसा हुई. तो उसने जो है फल के पास जाके फल तोड़ना चाहता. तो अब फल, आंख तो तोड़ नहीं सकती, चल कर गए पैर. अब पैर भी थोड़ी ना तोड़ सकते हैं. तोड़ा हाथ ने, और हाथ ने तोड़कर अपने हाथ में थोड़ी रखा, चला गया मुंह में, और मुंह से चला गया पेट में. और जब माली ने देखा कि इसने जो है ये फल तोड़ा है, तो उसने लाठी उठाई और उसकी पीठ पर मारा. तो पीठ ने कहा, हाय मेरा क्या कसूर था, मैंने तो खाए में नहीं था. लेकिन जब लाठी पड़ी पीठ को, तो आंसू निकले आंख से. देखा उसी ने था, अल्टीमेटली देखा उसी आंख ने था. सो घूम फिर कर जो है, तो दिस इज व्हाट स्वामी विवेकानंद सेज, कि जो अच्छा करोगे तो अच्छा आएगा, जो बुरा करोगे तो उसका बुरा ही आएगा. Okay, so interpretation and explanation. Quote reflects the karmic principle where love and hatred cyclically influence one's life. And his work with the Ramakrishna mission demonstrates this, showing how positive action shape our future. Then you write the relevance in the present context. So cyclical nature of hatred. So self-destruction, hate harms the hater's well-being. For example, Buddhism views hate as a source of suffering. Okay. Social discrimination fuels prejudice leading to violence, caste-based incident in Shivpur, Rajasthan. Global challenges escalate into global conflicts, Russia-Ukraine war affecting global economy. And cyclical nature of love, that is emotional well-being, love brings inner peace, healthy child development due to harmonious family environment. Basically ये कहना है कि if you have hatred, it will cyclical in nature. If you have love, it will be cyclical in nature. So it will come back. Gandhiji's love bridging societal divides during the freedom movement. Compassion, conflict builds harmonious communities. So basically, you can give many examples in this, saying that when you do something good to others, you will also get good. So this you can relate in terms of nations also, that when one nation does good to another nation, other nation also reciprocates by the same amount. And there will be many examples to that also. You can give many examples of cases where people have been good to other people and they have reciprocated back to them. And where you have been bad to other people, you have also got in this. Can you give an example of this?
In a landslide. This is in a cyclic hatred in nature. When we do good things for a poor section of people or marginalized section of people, when they will develop, they will also help other people. It will be the cyclic nature of love.
Yes, correct. Many times you must have seen on your WhatsApp also, and in National Geographic also, that you express love to an animal, and that animal then goes away for several years and it becomes big animal, and you meet that animal again and that showers the love and affection. So that thing he remembers. So this kind of examples can always be given, that love always rebounds in love, and hatred always rebounds in hatred. What really matters for success, character, happiness, and lifelong achievements is a definite set of emotional skills, your EQ, not just purely cognitive, but do you agree with this view? So they say that what really matters for success, character, happiness, and lifelong is a definite set of emotional skill. So basically, it says that IQ is not important so much, but EQ is also important, which you saw in one of the case studies also. I had mentioned that 20% of your success is attributable to the IQ, 80% of your success. Daniel Goleman. So Daniel Goleman is the person who brought in emotional intelligence. So the answer to that is that about EQ and IQ. EQ involves emotional skills, IQ measures cognitive abilities. Role of EQ, success key in communication, leadership, and teamwork. So if you have emotional intelligence, you will be very successful in communication and you know, leadership and teamwork. If you have EQ, you will have a lot of success. Sardar Patel's leadership in India's consolidation. So nations, the different states reorganization. So he was able to do it through emotional intelligence. And character fosters empathy, integrity, and self-awareness. Gandhiji's compassion and ethical leadership. Happiness, Buddha's teachings on achieving inner peace, lifelong achievements. EQ is a learnable skill that supports continuous growth. For example, Steve Jobs' innovation driven by understanding human emotions. So conclusion is, intelligence should encompass multiple aspects beyond cognitive abilities. And you know, that is why it is said that IQ operates from mind and heart, but EQ operates from the heart. And IQ gets you hired. EQ gets you either fired or promoted. If you have a high EQ, you will get promoted. If you have a very low EQ, you will get fired. But IQ will show you to the door. You will enter the door. You will get your job by your IQ. But your success in civil services will be depending on your EQ. So that is the power of EQ, which was one of the greatest discoveries of the 20th century by David Goleman. So what would you like me to tell me? Continue or? PPTs? Not at all, no problem.
What we have discussed till now.
Yeah.
Anybody would like to ask questions? Last questions? So we can discuss this 4B and then.
Sure. So 4B is differentiate moral intuition and moral reasoning. So this is again in a tabular form. Moral intuition is instant snap judgment. You see, it comes to you ki intuition, something like sixth sense. So moral intuition, instant judgment without conscious reasoning. For example, immediate urge to help someone in danger. Moral reasoning is conscious, deliberate process. For example, analyzing the ethics of the death penalty. So that is called as moral reasoning. It takes time. Intuition is snap judgment, immediately. लगता है कि भाई एकदम danger है, sixth sense है, that is intuition. And then moral intuition, decision making time is fast. India's immediate aid to Pakistan during flood, that was intuition. Or Kathmandu. Moral reasoning is slow. India's strategic response to Taliban takeover in Afghanistan. It was very slow. They did not recognize. Have they recognized Taliban? They have not recognized it. So it's very slow. Third is moral principle. Culturally driven, rigid, for example, emotional response to child labor. Here it is principle consistent with moral commitment. For example, equitable distribution of medical resources during a crisis. Factors influencing socio-economic factors, education, for example, protests after Nirbhaya case. They were moral intuition immediately after Nirbhaya case. And reduced bias, critical evaluation, evidence-based sentencing in judgment. So the sentencing in justice, the judiciary which passes judgment, that is based on evidence. So that is it takes time. It is based on moral reasoning, evidence. Quality displayed is kindness, strong emotions, whereas here it is justice, fairness, lack of emotion. It is more of legal reasoning. So that's the difference. Moral intuition is snap judgment. It comes quickly, whereas moral reasoning comes slowly. So this is how you will give answer. So there will be, I will share. Yes, you wanted to ask me something?
In India, we have code of conduct for civil society, but there is no code of ethics till now. In many country we have a code of ethics, but we have a code of conduct. There is no code of ethics till now, despite similar standard exist in other nation. Why?
So we must also have a code of ethics. There is no doubt about it. Code of ethics are more in general. They are not enforceable. Code of conduct is enforceable. Ideally, we should have a code of conduct. In fact, code of ethics, Second Administrative Reforms Commission recommended that for civil servant should also be code of ethics. I don't know why, but the government has not still done it. Ideally, we must have a code of ethics. In fact, all the public sector undertakings, they have a code of ethics. And code of conduct as well as code of ethics is necessary in any organization. So maybe over a period of time, I would like to see that a code of ethics is also there for civil servants. So that should be there. That is a broad, yes, but it is necessary because the devaluation in the society is going so fast that it is necessary. Now that we have introduced a GS4 paper, there should also be a code of ethics also. So that is should be done. There is no doubt. Any other questions anyone would like to ask? So now you have to sum it up. Both 125 marks plus 125 marks are important for you. Case studies, as I told you, that you must do it systematically. That is the summary, the stakeholders, the ethical issues involved, the options which are available, the most probable option. And similarly, the case studies relating to some proactive action. How will you solve the problem of illiteracy or women empowerment, where you have to do some kind of a brainstorming. And if you do it stepwise, giving examples, ethics paper is just giving based on examples. So whatever you write in the part 1 paper, that is A paper, that is ethics theory, there also you should try to give examples which will definitely get you much greater marks. But definitely keep the time in mind. Also keep in mind that the number of words should not exceed. As I told you, prepare a bank of newspaper cuttings, prepare a bank of good quotes, prepare a bank of examples, and you will not regret, because those things you will keep on adding, and every week you can open them up and look at those examples. And as I told you, that try to write the answers rather than just learning them by heart. If you, and that applies for all papers of civil service, if you do that, then I can definitely assure you that you will do extremely well. Now all of you would be appearing at the which paper, 2025 or 24? Okay, so prelims 2024 in May. So there is a requirement of a strategy for prelims also. I have got so what I used to do was that I used to I never lost sight of my people who came for interview at the mock interview. I always used to chase them and do hand holding with them. So after the last civil services exams was over, and many of those were selected, so I contacted all of them and I asked them, I said, tell me, if you have to explain, what are the essential things you kept in mind for clearing the prelims? And then they came out with a large number of suggestions. So those suggestions I have compiled, and probably one of these days we will be having a class in which I will show you what are the steps you have to keep in mind for CSAT or for the GK paper, so that the most dicey part of your civil services, which is the prelims, you are able to clear that. Mains is not that difficult, prelims is dicey, and interview also is something which is not very difficult. Yeah. Acha, you are already qualified the mains. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I think you were present in last two. So there were a number of questions which I had prepared. Have they shared with you? Tomorrow we'll get them shared to you. Almost almost 100 questions which I had prepared, which may come in the interview. So, or otherwise what you can do, that those of you who have already qualified the mains, I'm there for the next 2-3 days. Any one of you can come and talk to me. I will be happy to give whatever knowledge, advice to you for the interviews. Okay, so I will be here for the next 2-3 days. So you can even I will be there in the after 7-8 days again. I will be coming here. So those of you who want to get some kind of an informal discussion, you can always talk to me. Okay, all the best to you. See you then. You had a very long day, and but it was an important paper, and I'm happy that it was done. Yeah. Yeah.
कोट्स आपने बोले थे लिखने
हाँ,
को।
yes,
सर
yes.
अगर उसमें कोई गीता का भी कोट आता है, उसे संस्कृत में मेंशन करना सही रहेगा, या पेपर अगर मीडियम इंग्लिश
It would be better if you translate it in English.
इंग्लिश
Because Sanskrit they may not be able to understand. Translate it in
और
English.
सर ऐसे में एक डाउट था, 2 एसेज होते हैं, तो उनमें एनेक्डोट फॉर्म में एक ऐसे लिखना होगा, या फिर दोनों अलग अलग चेंज स्टाइल चेंज करके लिखूं, या फिर सेम वे में लिख दूं? जैसे कि एक एनेक्डोट फॉर्म में और एक जो जैसे कि एथिक्स का कोड दिया हुआ है, जैसे कोड दिया हुआ है,
एक तो कोड बेस्ड होता है। हाँ, अब तो ज़्यादातर कोड बेस्ड ही आ रहे हैं, है ना?
हाँ जी।
हाँ,
तो सर उसे कैसे दोनों अलग अलग वेज में लिखना में मार्क्स ज़्यादा सेम मिलेंगे, या फिर सेम वे में?
हाँ, अगर दो अलग अलग तरीके से निकले तो प्रॉबेबली इट विल बी ए बेटर, बिकॉज एक ही तरह का लिखे तो वो फिर एग्जामिनर में गेट प्रेजुडिस्ड आल्सो। अगर एक में नहीं है तो कम से कम दूसरा। सो इट्स ए गुड टू राइट 2 ways, different ways. Okay, I would do that. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
I, Sonal, on behalf of Team Vision IAS, express our gratitude to you, sir, for such an interactive session and helping the student understand the demand of the GS Paper 4 Ethics. Most importantly, you help the student understand the contextual and the application part of ethics, which will not only be important for framing the answers in the GS Paper 4, but also help them to be an ethical civil servant in future. We thank you, sir, for sharing your valuable time and experience with our young audience. As a student, we often face issues while tackling the GS Paper 4 when it comes to examples and also application of theory in the case studies. We hope that you got a detailed insights on how to approach the questions in the GS Paper 4. Thank you all for joining the session and enthusiastically participating as well. Good night.
Thank you very much for your very kind words. Thank you so much. All the best to you.